Teresa Smith is suing her neighbors, Annelle DeSaint and Stephen Pellegrino, for vet bills she incurred while caring for their dachshund.
Miss Smith, you and the defendants were neighbors?
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time that you made an agreement with the defendants to doggy sit for their dog while they were going away on vacation. However, the dog got sick and you took the dog to the vet. And the dog required some serious intervention, which the vet did. And Mr. Sent and Mr. Pellegrino refused to pay the vet bill. They say that they did not authorize you to take their dog to the vet. The dog was that sick. They should have put the dog down, right?
Yes.
You paid the vet bill. You want the money back.
Yes, Your Honor, please.
What day did you start to take care of the dog?
I started to take care of the dog on a Tuesday.
You remember the date?
Let me look at my papers, please.
Sure. While she's looking, where were you going?
Going to San Diego. It was on June 5th.
How long were you going to be away?
3 days.
Tell me what kind of dog you had.
It was a Dachshund, I think.
What do you mean dachshund, you think?
Because the neighbor gave it to us. It was a mutt, basically.
How old was it when you got it?
We don't know. We got it from our neighbor, and they gave us a couple of dogs because, I don't know, we just took it for the kids.
Whose kids?
Our kids.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
Do you work?
Yes, I'm a sign directional.
What is that?
Well, you know, the people that hold a sign on the corner, and they tell you where the new homes are being sold.
And what do you do?
I'm in construction.
So a neighbor gave you 2 dogs.
The first one, it was starting to get sick, so we had taken it to the vet. And the vet said that you should have it put down because it had a bad liver. So a little bit later, after that, the neighbor had to get rid of some more dogs. And so they asked us if we wanted another dog.
Was it a puppy or was it a grown dog?
Yeah, it was still a puppy. Yeah.
And you had it for a month?
Yes.
Your 3-year-old like it?
Yes.
Yes.
Was it housebroken?
No.
No.
Were you taking your children with you to San Diego?
Yes.
Where were you leaving the puppy?
We left it at our house with a bowl of food, and we asked if she can
Just
come
a second.
over.
At your house in a bowl of food, but the dog isn't housebroken.
Well, in the outside.
We have a
yard,
fenced-off area
fenced
with a
off
yard.
So you were leaving the puppy outside?
Yes.
Is that where the puppy stayed when you were home?
Yes.
Yes.
It has a dog house out there.
And you live in California?
Yes.
And this was in June.
Not cold weather.
Yeah, it wasn't cold weather at all.
So what happened, Miss Smith?
So I went over to take care of the dog. The first day I got there, its water dish was basically just the cup off the top of a thermos, and it was completely dry. So I filled it up, and the dog drank like it had had water in almost days. And it just drank and drank and drank and drank, and it didn't touch its food. I went back that evening. I bought another water dish for it and made sure it had plenty of water. It still didn't touch its food. This went on until Thursday. It never touched its food. I even went over there one day and I even put down a can of canned dog food, because usually because it's stinky, a dog will eat it. And he didn't touch it. By the time I went back that evening, it was just a dried, hard lump. So Thursday, I was able to go over, and I thought, okay, maybe he's just lonely, missing the family, so I'll spend some time with him. And he just drug himself out where he was sleeping, and you could see all of his bones by then, and his nose was dry and warm.
Okay. So what did you do when you saw the dog in that condition?
Well, when I saw the dog that was that sick, I thought, this dog is going to die. And before they had left, I had asked them, before you leave, do you have an emergency phone number? And they refused to give me one, because they just
They didn't give you one.
Right.
They didn't refuse. They just didn't give you one.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So I took the dog to the vet, so horribly sick.
You have the vet report?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Can I say something?
Sure.
How can the dogs be in bones within 3 days that we were gone?
I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm going to read what the expert says.
Okay.
Well, the vet said your dog is very dehydrated and lethargic, raspy, lung sounds bilateral, parvo. Dog had parvo. That's a very serious diagnosis.
That's how the dog would get sick, so skinny so fast, it would be throwing up.
That's a very serious diagnosis. That's how it got so sick. That should answer your question. On what date did you get home?
On the 8th.
And she told you that the dog was in the...
Well, there was a note on our door.
That the dog was in intensive
Yes.
care. So what did you do?
I called her, and she told me the dog was in intensive care, and basically it was going to cost like a lot of money to keep it there every day, so we called the pound. And we told them, well, is there any way we can take the dog off life support, because we cannot afford this. As bad as it seems, we would probably have utilized it. But they told us we couldn't get the dog out of the pet shelter because they didn't have no paperwork that it was our dog. They only had paperwork from her. And we called her, and I told her, well, we were going to have to utilize the dog. And she didn't answer or say anything about it. So then we called the pound again, and we told them, well, is there any way we can get this dog? And then they said Teresa already picked the dog up. And then we haven't heard from her for around 6 months. We haven't
Well,
talked to her.
Just a second. The dog got sick before you came home. And it wasn't as a result of any negligence on her part. The dog had parvo. What would you expect her to do?
Well, she already knew that we didn't have money.
No, not what she knew, not what she surmised. What would a reasonable person, under the circumstances, be expected to do when a dog that's left in their care is clearly violently ill and they can't get in touch with the dog's owner? What would you expect them to do?
Yeah, I understand that. She had no number to reach us. The thing was that when the dog was released, we tried to get a hold of him and maybe put the bill under our name so we could pay payments on that dog. And we couldn't get a hold of her.
Your wife just told me you wanted to put the dog in the pound to have it put down.
Well,
That's what your wife told me.
At this point, I really didn't want to hassle with my neighbors, you know, hassle with the neighbors. So I kind of wanted to say, okay, the dog's already in the pound. What is done is done. She was just trying to be a good neighbor by taking care of the dog, you know, and taking it there. If it got sick, I would have took someone else's dog to the pound.
Absolutely right.
To the vet also. The thing was, when the dog was released, she had never contacted us and not returned our dog to us and said, here's a bill, can you pay this bill, trying to be neighborly instead of just taking us straight to court.
She didn't take you straight to court. This happened in June.
Well, we haven't seen the dog in 6 months.
We have tried to talk to her, and I had left messages. I went to her door, and no one had answered.
Did you go to the vet and say, I will assume responsibility for this bill?
They didn't even want to talk.
No, listen to me. I will assume responsibility for this bill. This is my dog. All she had to do was say that because she didn't want your dog. She didn't steal your dog. Come on, folks. What you said to me initially was correct, that you would have said, we don't have the money for this.
Exactly.
Put the dog down. Don't make excuses.
Right.
And all I said to you was, under the circumstances, since she had no way to contact you, she acted appropriately in taking the dog to the vet and providing whatever care the vet said the dog needed in order to survive. Because otherwise, you would be standing on that side, and you know what you'd be telling me? My children loved the dog, and she didn't take good care of it, and we would have paid the vet bill. She should have taken the dog to the vet. Instead, she let the dog die.
We would not have.
No?
I would have, if she would have came to me with a vet bill, I would have taken care of that vet bill.
Well, good. She came to you with a vet bill now.
But
Judging
she never
for the
returned our
plaintiff, an amount
dog
of
to us.
$550. That's all. Step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Step out.
She would have definitely paid for that bill,
I had contacted him. I told him the dog was in the vet,
and I would have definitely got my dog back.
and he responded, if I had been here, I would have let the dog.
You were having a party?
It was more like a get-together. I wouldn't say it was a huge party.
How many people were at the house?
8, I believe.
8, including you and your husband?
My husband wasn't there at that time. Including me, it was about 8.
But your husband was also present in the house that night?
Yes, he came in around 2 a.m.
And he was a co-worker of yours?
Yes.
Where do you work, sir?
We work at a place called Nielsen Media Research.
How long have you worked together?
About 2 months now. We started at the exact same time. We were in the same training class, and that's how we got to be acquainted with one another.
Where did you work before that, Mr. Massey?
Actually, right before this, I worked at a place called Publishers Printing for 2 or 3 months. But the drive, I don't drive, and my mom was having to take me, and it was just too much trouble. This place is like 1 mile from the times.
Great. Okay, Miss Mason, tell me about the theft from your house.
That night when I had went to bed, the money was on my bookcase. I woke up in the morning, I'm going to say about 8:30. He had come in my room. He had stayed in our guest room because he had just fallen asleep there. And he came in, and we were talking.
And where was your husband?
He was downstairs doing laundry.
Go ahead.
And I had just, gotten up out of my bed, and I went downstairs to get a sweatshirt. But when I had went down the stairs, my money was there. I saw my bookcase, which was right next to my bedroom door. I saw it. And when I came back up, he had met me on the top of my stairs. So I didn't go back into my room before we left. And when I came back home, my money was gone.
Came back home when?
From dropping him off, taking him home.
And what time was that?
Between 10 and 10:30 a.m.
How many people live in your home?
Me, my husband, and my son.
How old is your son?
He's 4.
Okay. I read your complaint very carefully, Miss Mason. Your complaint says, by 4 a.m. everyone was gone, so I went up to my room. I made sure that the $500 I had been saving for a cell phone and Christmas shopping was still nudged between the book and a box of magic erasers. The money was folded in half, and the corner was visible to the eye.
Yes.
This says you did this at 4 o'clock in the morning, not
Yes.
at 8 o'clock in the morning when you said he came into your room.
I did. I checked my money at 4. That's when I went to bed. And I got up at 8, and it was still there.
Well, you don't say that you checked it here at 8. You said that you checked it at 4. I didn't understand, madam, why anyone would have a party at their house and leave money at a place where you would see the money if you were hiding it. If you're hiding money, you hide money so that you don't see it. You put it in a certain place so it would be safe, right?
Yes.
So I didn't understand why you would put it someplace where it would be safe and let a corner of the money stick out.
It wasn't so much that I was hiding it from anybody. Nobody should have been in my room.
All right. let's move on. So what you're saying is the reason you believe that the defendant stole your money is because he had access to it, and as far as you knew, he was the only one who was there in between the times that you saw it, present and missing.
Yes.
You have any other proof that he stole your money?
My mother had spoken with him on the phone.
Good morning.
Your daughter says that you spoke to the defendant about this.
I did, Your Honor.
May I interject for a moment, Judge?
No.
Okay. I was saying...
No.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I spoke to the defendant about 3 or 4 days after that. I said to him, I know you stole the money out of the home. He said I didn't. He denied it. I kept telling him, you did take that money out of that home. He said that he did not take it, but he did.
Okay. Did he say anything else?
No. He just told me he did.
Okay, man, when this woman called me, first of all, she never identified herself as Laura's mom.
I don't care. Why are you responding so? The woman didn't inculpate you at all in this crime. Why are you so insistent upon responding?
Okay, it's just that she called up and told me she was a police officer and said that she was, you know, this and that.
She has difficulty.
Clearly.
You have been arrested, Mr. Massey?
Yes.
For what?
DUIs.
How many?
3. That's why I don't drive. I walk to work.
Is that why you don't drive?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than DUIs, have you ever been arrested for anything else?
I have.
Is not an answer.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The drug, like marijuana.
When?
2004.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
So, you drink too much and you smoke a little marijuana?
Well, yeah, I did.
You did? You don't anymore?
No.
Ever been arrested for theft?
Nope, never.
What kind of money do you earn?
$8.50 an hour.
Who do you live with?
I live with my mom, because when I got my DUIs, I had to go to jail for a little while, so I had to move back with my mom. I'd owned a house and everything else, but, you know, that just, you get locked up, you lose that stuff.
Okay. Miss Mason, it's possible that Mr. Massey took your money. It's possible, but you have to prove it.
Well, he did admit it to my mom.
No, that's not what she said at all. She said he kept denying it. Your mother never.
He admitted it.
I was on a three-way phone call with...
Now, members, listen to me. She testified.
Yes.
I heard her. You have to have proof
Yes.
that he's a thief. Now, it's possible that he took your money. It's also possible that somebody else who was there took your money.
No.
Well, according to you, you had at least 8 people coming in and out of your house. That's what happens.
Yes.
Sometimes money gets taken. And it is possible that Mr. Massey is one of the people who was there, took your money. But there's insufficient proof for me to feel comfortable to label him a thief. Thank you. That's all. The case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her husband came home, caught her in bed with another dude when I was there.
My husband knows what I do. I'm not worried about it.
He was fall down drunk at the end of the night.
I think he's been smoking a little bit too much.
There's real wacky stuff going on.
A little more too many brain cells might be completely dead.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Estes versus French. Step forward, please.
Patricia Estes is suing neighbor Lori French for the cost of a peacock and for damage to her property.
Miss Estes, you claim that Miss French's dogs killed your pet peacock.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated. And Miss French says that there is absolutely no proof that her dogs killed your pet peacock. You live in a relatively rural area. There are lots of animals that are the same. Okay. When did this allegedly happen?
It's March the 3rd of this year.
Was the peacock in an enclosed fence?
Yes. Let me show you, give you a copy of the map and show you on our map.
Bert, could I have a copy of Miss Estes' map?
And Mrs. French, if she wants to.
I love people who are prepared. Could you give her a copy, too, so she can follow along?
Sure. Thank you. You're welcome.
Good.
I live at the end of a dirt road, and this is my house here. I'm on 5 acres. And there's a fence around my yard, the inner yard. Mrs. French's dogs, they live 2 parcels down. It's not like we're right next to each other. And my neighbor across the street, who I have today as a witness, that saw what happened, and she lived right across from me.
Okay. Got it. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
My name's Corey Kell.
Tell me what you observed on the 3rd of March.
I take my kids to school at around 8:30, 8:45 every morning. Came right back, and when I came back, Mrs. French's dog had her peacock in its mouth.
That is not a true statement that she's just made.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So you brought the dogs inside and then went to work?
Right.
Well, somebody let them out.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Animal control doesn't spend their time going into people's yards stealing their dogs.
And later today...
Did you call your father to ask him to bail you out? It's not an answer.
I didn't.
She didn't ask me. She...
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patricia Estes claims her peacock was killed by Lori French's dog.
What kind of dog was it? that you saw attack her bird?
I don't know what kind. It's a mixed dog. It looks like a cross between a German Shepherd and a Lab. It's short-haired.
And there's no question in your mind that the dog that you saw, you had seen before?
100% sure. On Thanksgiving of last year, we had our family up. We took a walk, and we actually met Miss French, and I met all of her dogs at that time, which was 4 months prior to this. Okay. Her dogs are always running up and down our road, getting in the way, trying to get in my yard every time I leave my house.
So the dogs are out. Why do your dogs get out, Miss French?
My dogs are in my yard. I have never seen my dogs out of my yard. She's saying that my dogs are in her yard with her 4 vicious Labradors.
No, that's not what she's saying at all.
She said that she just saw my dogs in her yard.
She said they're running up and down the road.
Well, I beg to differ that.
Okay.
I have some pictures that shows their house with the gate open and their dogs in front of the house.
Can I see it, please?
Inside their yard.
Can I see it, please? Were your dogs picked up by animal control on December 7th, Miss French? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Where were they picked up?
I do not know. On that morning at 7 a.m., it was about 22 degrees that morning. I had brought my dogs into the home, and I had consequently gone to work about 10 o'clock that morning. When I returned, there was a note on my gate that said my dogs had been picked up by animal control.
Who else lives in your house?
I have 2 daughters, well, 3 daughters actually. 20-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and my husband.
So there are other adults in the house?
Yes.
So you brought the dogs inside and then went to work?
Right.
Well, somebody let them out.
Well,
Miss French, somebody let them out.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Animal control doesn't spend their time going into people's yards stealing their dogs.
Correct.
Oh, good. So we know that your dogs have gotten out, and it's probably not the first time they've gotten out. Somebody in your household isn't responsible, Miss French. You're responsible for this peacock.
Do I get to...
You aren't home. You don't know what happened. Only she knows. She's
yes,
an
but
eyewitness.
I do have some... well, her house, according to this, is not even in the correct position.
I don't care what's not in the position. I have to rely on what she says. There is no reason for me to disbelieve what she says to me, because after she saw it, she reported it to the plaintiff. So there is no reason for me to disbelieve her. You, on the other hand, were not home. Now, I'm prepared to hear you.
Okay.
I'm prepared to hear you, but I'm telling you that I believe what she says, that she saw a dog that she has identified as your dog, which she has seen numerous times because she has spoken to you. You've introduced her to your dogs, according to her, and I absolutely believe her.
Okay.
So I'm
the woman I
prepared to
met
hear.
was a blonde, so...
Listen to me. You know, I used to be a blonde, too.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go.
I found the neighbor's boxer in my yard on that Saturday, December 9th, chasing my livestock and my horses. I yelled at her. She left the yard. 15
Which
minutes
neighbor are you
later,
talking
the
about?
neighbor that's in between our 2 homes. 15 minutes later, I come back, and that dog is still chasing my livestock. I had to physically take her to the neighbor's home and put her
What
back
does that
in the
have
yard.
to do with this incident? This is not a boxer. A boxer is not a husky.
I'm saying that I have livestock that have disappeared. Out of my yard, she's saying that she's... I would like to
Miss
know
French.
even what dog she's accusing of doing this, because I haven't even got that.
Yeah. Well, maybe she'll tell you. Go ahead.
The one that looks like a German Shepherd Lab mix with short hair.
You have a picture of that dog?
It's in the pictures there that you have, Your Honor.
Did you give her the and identify the dog that she's talking about?
This one right there.
Yeah.
The short-haired one. I also have a report.
This one? Okay. Show it to the defendant. Can I see the report from Animal Control while he's showing that to the defendant?
Yes, she said that I've admitted to Animal Control that my dogs did this. I have not spoken to Animal Control, even after numerous attempts to contact them.
Animal Control says that they returned several times. No one was at home. That's to your house. And each time they were there, they left a notice. According to the Animal Control person, I have been unable to make contact with the suspect dog owner to resolve this matter. In any event, I'm satisfied, Miss French, that it was your dog that was responsible for the dead peacock.
Well,
now,
I have excuse me.
Miss French, your dog killed the peacock.
Well, I have incidents documented.
Period.
2 dogs that look very similar to my dogs that have roamed this neighborhood.
And that's unfortunate for your dogs. Your dogs were just picked out of a lineup. What was the cost of the peacock?
$450 for a male peacock with full tail feathers.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $450. That's all.
September
Of?
06.
According to your complaint, you believe that your son owes you for car that you gave to him, titled in his name, but with a condition. And the condition was the car would be returned to you if and when he joined the Navy.
He told me he was already signed up for the Navy in January.
Right. So that was the condition that you indicated.
To get him off of a motorcycle that he was riding rather recklessly.
Right. And you said to him, here's a car, putting it in your name. When you go into the Navy, I want you to give it back.
Right.
Did you ever go into the Navy?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, I read your whole complaint, and your whole complaint has sort of a convoluted story about certain trust that you had in your son to do the right thing. He took the car, he sold it to somebody else, then he took it back, then he sold it to another person. Bottom line is, I read your complaint very carefully, sir. And your complaint is clear. What you said in your complaint, which was you gave him this car, you transferred the title to him, is that correct? He insured the car himself, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you pay for the insurance yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how long did you drive the car?
Only for a couple months, Your Honor.
Then you sold it and bought something else.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, stop playing with your papers.
Okay.
Because you're not going to understand what I'm saying to you unless you pay attention.
Gotcha.
If I believe what you say in your complaint, you made him a conditional gift. And the condition of that gift was that the car would be returned to you when he entered the Navy. But he has not entered the Navy.
Okay.
So how can you get the car back? Or the value of the car?
Okay.
Do you understand? I know that you're angry with him. I don't know exactly why. Maybe we can resolve that. But the conditional gift that you made to him it becomes a permanent gift if he never joins the Navy. Is it your intention to join the Navy?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
I decided to keep pursuing my medical field that I am now.
And not join the Navy? Okay. Ever? When did you give him the car, Mr. Nelson, just for my own information?
September 27, 06.
And you titled it in that same month. And when did you sell the car, sir?
Down in October around.
Who'd you sell it to?
I didn't personally meet them. My stepfather actually had it in Desert Hot Springs, and he sold it for me.
To whom did you sell it?
To a private party out of Banning.
Stand up. How much did you sell it for?
Your Honor, Christopher owed me some money, so he had gotten another vehicle. So in lieu of the money that he owed me,
what did he owe you money for?
Personal loans.
Explain it to me.
Just everyday living, helping him with insurance, paying for some of his tuitions through furthering his education in the EMS field, things of that nature.
How much did he owe you?
About $4,500. Educations are expensive.
How long have you been married to his mother?
Since July of 06.
You were divorced in September of 06. So how could you be married in July of 06?
It was a typo on the court's behalf, and we're since straightening that out in litigation.
What do you mean you're straightening that out? What does that mean?
Well, what it means is there was a typo that instead of putting a 9 when the divorce would have been finalized, it would look like a 7. So we went forward with the wedding. Come to find out later that it was a typo, so we're in litigation now at the courts to rectify that.
Why don't you just get married again?
We will, sir. Ma'am, when we're done with this. Pardon me.
May I reiterate?
Just a second. So let's assume he owed you $4,500 in the relatively short time that you've been together with his mother. How much did you sell the car for?
That exact amount.
To whom?
I don't know the name of the person. I took the car to my place of employment, placed a for sale sign in it, and 5 hours later sold the car. I don't know the name of the people. I really didn't expect this.
A man or a woman?
It was a man for his daughter.
Did you get a check or cash?
I received cash.
Do you know that I don't believe a word that's coming out of your mouth?
I'm sorry.
Do you know
I'm sorry.
that I don't really believe a word that's coming out of your mouth? Do you trust him?
I know it was true.
Well, let me tell you something. Most of what he just told me was not true.
I beg to differ, Your Honor.
Oh,
under this state that
you can do all you like, sir, but I understand.
I just swore between God and this court to tell the truth.
Quiet. I understand why Mr. Nelson is annoyed. The truth of the matter is, he made a conditional gift, and it didn't work out the way he had assumed it was work out. He certainly wasn't giving his son a car to give to you, to give you money. And so I can understand why he's annoyed. I understand why you're annoyed, sir.
If I get a chance, I'd like to explain.
Go ahead.
First, the car was stolen from her. She has a judgment on it.
A judgment? What do you mean it was stolen from you?
He sold the car to her, not to him.
Who sold the car to her?
Christopher sold the car to
Which is
her.
Christopher.
Christopher.
You sold the car to this lady?
For $7,500.
I'm speaking.
No, Your Honor.
You did not.
No, Your Honor.
There's the judgment.
I'd like to explain.
Go ahead.
When I received the car, I heard from a friend that I believe Kelly was looking for a car around $5,000, $7,500 or so. And so me and her were talking and everything, but she only had about $2,500 to give me. I knew she was going through some hard time, so we made a verbal agreement that she was to have possession of the car and I was to retain ownership until final payment. After a couple of weeks, I kept getting the same response that...
How much money did she give you?
She gave me $2,500 as a down payment, and then I was still waiting on $5,000 when she went down to her security lockbox at quote-unquote Pachanga. Well, after many weeks of trying to talk to her and give me the same excuse, it wasn't until after I talked to a lawyer and a detective from the Murrieta Police Department about the legal part of it that I was in full right to go and repossess my vehicle.
What'd you do with the $2,500?
She took me to court.
And what happened with it?
I even told her that I would give her the back.
What happened with it?
I was unable to attend.
What do you mean you were unable to attend?
I had a class that I was already enrolled in to further my...
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You sold it to somebody for $7,500. He sold it to somebody for $5,700. Don't you think your father could have sold it to somebody else for $5,000?
And later today,
I told him you get some parenting classes, you do some counseling,
that has nothing to do with the lease.
Yes, it does. It has everything to do with
Miss Lawler has nothing to do with the lease, madam.
Judge Judy. Dennis Nelson claims his adopted son, Christopher Nelson, illegally sold a Corvette he was allowing him to borrow.
Go ahead.
I have a witness in the back.
You didn't know you could have...
For what?
I will testify.
To what?
To whatever you want to hear.
Well,
He'll
don't testify to whatever I want to hear.
He will testify to the fact that he did steal the car. He was paid in full.
Just a second. Just a second. You have a judgment against him for $7,500?
She has the judgment.
You have a judgment against him, so there's no question.
Here's the other car.
A court has already ruled on that.
On that one.
On this one.
But the other witness will testify that he did take the car?
No, I got it. He said he repossessed the car, and he couldn't go to the hearing, to the court date, because he had a class.
Okay.
And then he took the car back, and he gave it to his stepfather, who sold it, according to him, for $4,500. Can I see the bill of sale?
The ones that he can't find.
Your last name is Mater?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a bill of sale, sir, with your signature on it, indicating that you sold this car to Joanna for $5,700.
I don't recall it being $5,700.
Well, why don't you take a look at this, sir?
Okay. I don't remember it being that much either.
Obviously, this is a second-generated bill of sale with the price altered. I'm not a liar. I am a man of integrity. Have fun.
Listen, I don't have to get into all of this. You can sit down. I can understand why your father is angry with you. He made a gift to you. He was hoping that you would be able to use that gift and drive safely with that gift. And he didn't do it to line the pockets of anybody else, including taking care of the bills that you allegedly owed to your stepfather. He was trying to help you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, is there any reason why you did that?
What, Your Honor?
Took a wonderful gesture and made it not wonderful anymore.
It wasn't a wonderful gesture, Your Honor.
No, it wasn't?
No, Your Honor.
Well, let me ask you this question, sir. Do you think that your father could have sold that car to somebody else? Put your hand down. Well, you sold it to somebody for $7,500. He sold it to somebody for $5,700. Don't you think your father could have sold it to somebody else for $5,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's an answer. Instead, he gave it to you. Write it off. Mr. Nelson, legally, I can't help you because the condition was that you get it back.
Is what it is.
You get it back if he joined the Navy. Didn't join the Navy. He's not going to join the Navy. Unfortunate. Sometimes your best intentions are not necessarily.
His words were he signed up for the Navy in January.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Good enough.
Case is
Thank
dismissed. That's all. You owe him an apology.
That'll never happen.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It is what it is. Liars, cheats, and thieves. The whole family.
He can't handle the fact that he has no control.
The captain of the fire department is less than honest.
The judge tried to attack my character, which was wrong. I was truthful as much as I could remember.
He's using his position to get personal vendettas.
He's jealous that I am married to his wife and basically have taken his prized possessions.
21-year-old Marvin Odom is suing his former friend, 22-year-old Mary Jackson, for the return of baby clothes. Mary is countersuing, claiming Marvin damaged a banister in her home while he was drunk.
I gather from your complaint that you and your girlfriend, who's pregnant, had nowhere to live. And you called up Miss Jackson and said, could we come in and stay with you for a little while? Miss Jackson, because she's a very nice lady, said, okay, right?
No, that's not really what happened.
Well, why don't you tell me what happened?
Miss Jackson insisted that we come stay with her because she was returning a favor because my girlfriend's mother helped her when she was pregnant with her first child.
But your mother didn't help her.
No.
Right? And you didn't help her.
No.
But you just came along with the package.
Yeah.
You and your pregnant girlfriend moved in with the defendant because she was being a nice person.
Well, yeah, you could say that.
I did say that. And things didn't work out.
Right.
Miss Jackson said things didn't work out because you got into argument with your girlfriend, you broke the banister in her house, then you got drunk, you fell down the stairs, you had to be taken to the hospital. Is any of that true, sir?
Not really.
Did you go to the hospital?
Yes, I was hospitalized.
Did you go to the hospital because you fell down the stairs?
Yes.
Was it the same stairs that had a broken banister from a couple of days before?
Yes.
And how did the banister get broken a couple of days before? Look at me. Don't look down here.
That I couldn't even tell you. All I have to say is that by the time I was in the hospital to the time I got out, I'm not hearing about the banister thing until small claims court.
In any event, at that point, when you went to the hospital, according to you, that was the time when you said, time to go.
Yeah.
That's when she told you she wanted you out, when you went to the hospital?
No, Your Honor.
When did she tell you she wanted you to go?
The first thing, she did not tell us we needed to go. We left because her and her boyfriend were arguing like the day I got out the hospital. I came back to the house. I stayed with my mother for like a total of 5 days. Well, the day we came back, they got into an argument, which then she called the police on him. By that time, they were throwing things around, you know. We were like, you know, this is crazy. Like, you know, we're friends and all, but we don't really want to, you know, budge in on them. While this is going on, like, every day, constantly, her and him fighting.
So you say you moved out because they were fighting?
Yeah, she
as
actually
opposed to
wanted
you
us
fighting. Now, when you were in the hospital, where was your girlfriend staying?
She was with my mother.
She left?
No, she never left. She stayed with me. She came and she took showers at my house. She used my hot water. She ate my food. And I was there for her because I'm a friend.
Just a second. Where was she living?
At my house.
You said she came back and she used your shower. What?
Yeah, because she was staying there while he was in the hospital, and then she would go back and visit him at the hospital.
Your Honor, I was only in the hospital for a matter of 2 days. That night that I went to the hospital, she stayed up there with me because she was there when I woke up. And the second day, she went over her father's house because her father lives like 5 minutes away from the hospital.
Okay. In any event, you left. Your lawsuit claims that Miss Jackson kept $2,000 worth of baby's clothes that you were putting away for your baby. Miss Jackson says you can have them back when you pay for the banister.
No, it didn't go down like that, Your Honor.
Why would she keep your baby's clothes, sir, if you didn't break her banister?
I don't know.
When she let you move into the house. I don't understand that. She let you move into the house.
Yes.
And then you're telling me all of a sudden she became the Wicked Witch of the West and kept your unborn baby's clothes for no reason?
Yes, Your Honor. That's the way.
Well, that's strange. She doesn't look like a nut to me.
Your Honor, you wouldn't believe it. But no.
Listen to me. She's giving you the clothes back.
Okay.
Right? You have his clothes.
Yeah.
You can get the clothes back. So all I have to determine is how the banister got broken. How did it get broken?
I can't say because at the time we were intoxicated and she was drinking.
How did the banister get broken?
It got broken because he left my home earlier that day. He came back in a drunken rage, fell down the stairs, and there he started having an asthma attack. My witness was there the whole time that this happened, and we weren't drunk because I don't drink around my kids.
Just get to the banister.
Okay, I'm sorry. What happened with the banister was that my daughter, my youngest daughter, she has reflux really bad, and I had to rush her to the emergency room. And when we come back from the hospital, my house is destroyed. It's trashed. Everything is everywhere. And I go downstairs and I ask him, what happened, you know? And Marvin said, I'm sorry. I broke your banister while me and Kayla were fighting. And he said that he threw her into the banister and it broke. And he sat there right then and there and said that he would pay for it.
Good. How much is it, $100?
Yes.
Great. On the counterclaim, judgment for the defendant of $100. 5 days from today, you will box up clothing, and the clothing will all be returned. You have it? It's all in the same condition that they left it?
Yes.
You have any babies?
Yes, I have 2 of my own.
How old?
I have a 3-month and a year-old.
Okay. All of the baby clothes that they put together?
It's all separate because they left it in my basement.
Was it new clothes?
No, it was from the Goodwill.
No, Your Honor. These were clothes just bought in my girlfriend's mother. The day she gave us the clothes, we unwrapped
Your girlfriend's
everything.
mother gave you the clothes?
She bought them. She was buying them for over several months.
Good. So you must have the receipts for them.
We don't have receipts.
Oh, that's too bad.
But
5 days from today, you give them back all the baby clothes you have.
But
okay?
here's the notarized
Perfect.
statement.
Thank you very much. On the counterclaim, you get $100.
Thank you.
That's fix your banister. Goodbye. Have a happy life. Good luck with the
Taylor versus White. Step forward.
Nina Taylor is suing 25-year-old Amanda White for taking back a 1998 Ford Contour she donated to her. Amanda claims Nina misappropriated the donation.
Ms. White, according to what I read, you gave Crystal a car.
Yes.
So you gave it to her.
Yes, ma'am.
As a gift.
Yes, ma'am.
When you gave Crystal the car, her mother invested money to have the car fixed. Then, according to Ms. Taylor, you took the car back.
Yes, ma'am.
And she wants the money that she invested in the car because you took the car back. So now I have to figure this out. Which one of you two ladies is Crystal?
Me.
Crystal, stand up next to your mom. When did you give Crystal the car?
Late July.
What kind of car was it?
A Ford Contour.
What year?
98.
How many miles did it have on it?
Approximately 200,000.
Okay, so it didn't have much value to it.
No.
And why did you give her the car?
The whole purpose, I paid the car off, and I said that when I get a new one, my whole point of not trading the car in was to give it away to somebody who was in need when I found
so you
that
gave it
person.
to Crystal?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
We worked together.
Why did you take it back?
We were waiting for a title to the car because I had a lien. I had trouble getting the title because of the lien. Miss Taylor contacted me right before I got the title, and she told me that she was suing me. She did not want the title at that point. She wanted the money that she says that she put into it. So I told her that I wanted receipts and I wanted to verify with my mechanic.
You have the car?
Yes.
You just give it back to Crystal.
That's not true.
Just a second. Listen to me. Perhaps Miss White didn't understand, so I have to explain the law to you. When you give a gift, you cannot give a gift with tentacles. You don't have the right to say, well, I'm giving it to you because I want to give it to somebody who's needy. But then if you do something with it that I don't like, I'm going to take it back.
Well, it's the whole idea that I was being sued. If I'm being sued for $2,000, prove it. She didn't want it.
Very
good. She didn't want the car. She didn't want the title. I told her I have the title.
Oh, fine. Well, just give her the title.
I would. At the door, at her door.
Wait a second.
I went to her door and told her I
Perfect.
had it.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
Just a second. Listen to me very carefully. You're not entitled to any money. You're entitled to the car. Period. End of discussion. Do you understand? My question is now, do you want, Miss Taylor, this is your lawsuit, do you want the car?
No.
Then your case is dismissed.
Why is that, Judge?
Because you are not entitled to the money. You fixed up the car. You're entitled to the car that she gave you. It was a gift. It was an unconditional gift. She gave it out of her heart because she wanted to give it to somebody who needed a car. You took it upon yourself to fix the car. You fixed it. You invested money in it.
But the car wasn't free. The title wasn't free. She just
It is now free. Is
She
that
just
right?
got it free and clear. She didn't have it in August.
Now she has the title free and clear. Do you want the car or nothing? Do you want the car or nothing?
The car, I mean, I put money into the car. I mean...
Do you want the car or nothing?
Car.
Good. Take out the title. You'll take care of signing it over to Miss Taylor. Fine?
That's fine.
Good. Bird, have him sign over the title, please.
Okie dokie.
Perfect. Is the car at your home, Miss White?
Yes.
Okay. When do you want Miss Taylor to pick it up, or Crystal?
Anytime.
Fine. You're a doll, Miss White. You're a nice person. It was a nice gesture.
Thank you.
This case stands for the proposition that no good deed goes unpunished. That's all. Thank you.
We've heard that
That's
all
all.
week.
We'll take care of all that. What is your excuse, Miss?
92. Yes.
There came a time when your former daughter-in-law and her husband were having some difficulty, and the 3 children came to live with you. One of the children remained with you Is this
This
the young
is
man?
Jeremy, my grandson.
He's now 18?
Correct.
But he's been with you since he's 16. And it is your complaint that during that time, Miss Hood was receiving support from your son for his son.
Yes.
And was not sending that support to you.
Correct.
So you're suing for that support, and also what you believe is her obligation to send some support herself for
Yes.
her child. Ms. Hood says that the meager amount of money that your son was sending to support his 3 children hardly supported one child, and that there was never an agreement with you that she would send support. She quite frankly thinks that it's absurd that you should come to court now and ask for what is $18 a week that your son was sending for his son's support.
Right.
Where is your son?
My son is there, Trevor.
That would be you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, stand up next to your mother, please. Your last name is?
Warman.
How many children do you have, sir?
3 by my ex-wife.
No, all together.
4.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a security guard.
How old are your children?
18, 17, 16, and 8.
Are you remarried?
No, ma'am.
Does the 8-year-old child live with you?
No.
Do you support the 8-year-old child?
Yes.
How much?
Right now we're going to court, and I'm in the process of getting medical insurance for her.
So the answer would be nothing.
Right now.
And how much do you send for your 16-year-old?
$69 per month.
Or $16 per week? That's what it comes down to. Or slightly more than $2 a day for your 16-year-old, right?
Okay.
Mr. Warman, I've just done the math on my trusty calculator because I'm not much of a mathematician.
He not only gives him money, but he also helps him. He buys them things. I mean, that's just not cut and dry. He bought sheets for their beds, but she didn't supply for their children's bed. He bought sheets for the beds because they didn't have any.
Oh, we're going to make him Father of the Year.
No, but I'm saying he does do other things. He doesn't just give the support. He does other things. He sees his children.
Miss Miller.
I disagree.
How many children did you raise?
4.
And who supported your children when they were growing up?
My husband's and
what
myself.
kind of work did he do?
Okay, I had 2 husbands. Okay, the first one worked at the post office, and my current husband works at a warehouse.
Is your former husband the father of the children?
The former husband, yes.
The former husband, the one who was a postal worker?
Yes. And then I had another husband in between, and that was the other 2 kids. 2 children, 2 children. Well, it's like her. She...
No, don't point to her.
Okay, she's been married 3 times,
don't
too.
Point to, I'm not interested in her. I'm on your team now.
Okay.
Miss Warman, let's talk about how many people live in your house?
4.
Who are they?
My oldest son and Jeremy and my husband and myself.
You have your own home?
Yes.
You have a mortgage?
Yes.
What are the mortgage payments?
$1,100.
So you would say $1,100 a month. Okay, so that would be approximately for the 4 people, $275 a month towards the mortgage, right?
Yes.
How much would you say you spend for food for the month?
I spend a good $600 to $800 a month.
So another $200 a month for each of the adults?
Yes.
So now we're up to $475, just for food and the roof?
Right.
We're not talking about clothes or anything else. How can you justify, madam, $18 a week that your son is sending support for his children as coming anywhere near the kind of support that I'm speaking that a child needs, and I'm not talking about buying pillowcases.
Right.
We're talking about support, real support. Now, if your son has a marginal job and can't afford anymore, fine. That's all he can afford. He wasn't too swift after not being able to support these 3 children. He went out and made another one, right?
Right.
You would say that that's true.
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 3 grown, no more.
At least she knew when she had enough. Do you understand, Miss Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here we have $475 to just put a roof over their heads and to feed them.
I don't make that money. My husband makes money, and he's not his blood grandfather.
I understand that. I'm talking about your son.
Right. And that's what the court ordered him to pay, was the $18.
And I want you to understand that that is ridiculous.
That could be.
Ridiculous.
Yes, it is. It's not enough.
$43 a month.
But the thing
It's
is...
ridiculous.
Right. But she doesn't have any children in her house now.
She should, just a second, she should have been paying support for her child who was living with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying is...
It's very little.
All I'm saying is he's not blameless.
No.
And you should have, before you look towards a stranger, because she's a stranger to you, Before you look to a stranger, you should have said to your son, who works a security job, get 2 jobs.
Right. And every time I needed something for Jeremy or Jeremy needs something, he asks his father, and his father gives him money for this and that. He has.
I'm not talking about giving his money
I
for
know.
this and that. I'm talking about helping you pay the $475 a month that you say it takes to support a child.
Yes, more than that.
Believe me, it's more than that. It's just the roof and the food. But your first vision should not be to her. Your first vision should be to him.
That's why I go to him when we need extra things.
Good.
I don't go to her.
Now, what you want from her is the $18 a week she was receiving while he was in your care. Why didn't you send that to her, Mrs. Hood?
I was supporting my son. I picked him up. I took him places. I gave him money for things.
You're supposed to do that. You're his mother.
But that's not true, Your Honor.
I don't want to hear from you, sir. When I hear any kind of substantial contribution to your children's support, I will listen to you. But right now, I didn't hear any of that from your mother. I heard you took them and got them things that they needed. Not saying to your mother, here is the $475 a month that it takes to put a roof over his head and feed him. I'm going to give that to you, and then we'll worry about everything else. So you have to be quiet.
Would you like me to sit down?
No, you can stand next to your mother.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What kind of work do you do now?
I will be a flight attendant.
So the answer is you do not work now?
Because I lost my job because of her.
Is anything your fault? I want to know if anything's your fault.
And later today,
now she has the title free and clear. Do you want the car or nothing?
people, Judge Judy. Marianne Miller says ex-daughter-in-law Kelly Hood owes for the cost to support her son. Marianne claims Kelly is a deadbeat mom.
You're supposed to take him and buy him things, madam.
Well, I know that. And I also give her support at the very beginning. Gave her the child support card. We get a little child support card.
$40.
And it was misused, and the child support agency told me that I wasn't supposed to give it to her because I still had custody of him.
I don't know what you mean. You gave her the child support card. What does that mean?
That's where the child support comes on a little, like, credit card instead of sending you a check in the mail. So I give it to her to help support, and I was told I wasn't supposed to do that because I have custody of him.
Well, that's ridiculous, Miss Hood. You may have legal custody on a piece of paper, but you weren't putting food in his mouth 3 times a day. So that's ridiculous. Why did you even ask somebody? If you had a card, if what they do is they don't give you the money, but they give you a card, and it's really taken off of the card, why did you even have a discussion with anybody about that? His grandmother had physical custody of him. His father was sending $18 a week support. As minimal as it is, it should have been sent to his grandmother.
At that time, I had 3 kids.
I'm talking about 3 children. We're only talking about 1. So the question is?
Well, the fact about it is this is a divorce decree that I've had custody of the kids ever since.
What difference does it make?
That he abandoned. He denied his parental rights that I have here.
Listen to me. Let us not go back in history.
And then this...
Let's look at me. Let's not go back in history. This young man went to live with his grandmother 2 years ago when he was 16. I don't want to hear about when he was 2 or 5 or 7 or 9 or 11 or 13. He went to live with his grandmother at your request when he was 16, and he has remained there. Now, she could have pursued support against you while he was there. She did not. And I'm not entertaining that. I'm not entertaining that part of her claim. Support against you personally. I just want to know is that you have any valid reason why you didn't turn over the support that you were receiving for him from his father to his grandmother.
Because she, like I said, she had misused it, and then the power of attorney
How did
says
she
that it doesn't
misuse?
have...
Just a second. How did she misuse the $18 a week?
Buying dinner for the family and cigarettes for him.
No, I didn't.
Shh. Buying dinner for the family on $18 a week? That's ridiculous, Miss Hood. What kind of work do you do?
I did have a job as shipping and receiving.
Is right now what you're saying to me? I don't care what you did in the past. What kind of work do you do now?
I will be a flight attendant.
So the answer is you do not work now?
Because I lost my job because of her.
Is anything your fault? I want to know if anything's your fault. Now, something must have happened recently that got your dander up. You want to tell me what it is?
Yes. Back in November, her current husband choked one of my grandchildren, and the police were called.
Which grandchild?
Joshua, his brother.
His brother. And they went to court.
Not true, Your Honor.
Don't interrupt her. Go ahead.
Paperwork on this. He choked the child, and Jeremy told his mother that he will not speak to her again if he accepts that man back in the house after he choked his brother. Jeremy's definitely afraid of her ex-husband. That's why he's living with me. She took him back in the house. Joshua and Jeremy went to live with his father. She went to court and had child support doubled, and she has none of the children living with her. And that kind of got my goat.
Got it. Well, we'll get my goat, too. Is the money still coming out of your check?
Yes, ma'am, every month, every
And the
week.
children are living with you?
Yes.
When did you go back to court?
I'm going to court February the 23rd for custody. I've got the motions filed in court to get him in school. I got him in school this
How old
month.
are the children?
16 and 15.
Well, if the children want to live with you, that's where they're going to live. Because
ma'am.
of this age.
Because they don't want to listen to me.
Excuse me?
That's because they do not want to listen to me, and they fill their heads with stuff.
Listen to me. For whatever reason, 15-year-old and a 16-year-old are going to make judgments, and the court's going to assign them a lawyer. And if the lawyer says, my clients want to live with their father, and unless somebody can establish that it would place them in a neglectful situation, that's where they're going to live. You owe her the $18 a week that you've been receiving from her son.
Even though he's back in arrears of child support of $2,000 that he's owed me for years.
Just a second.
And I've raised the kids all by myself without him even being in there.
Just a second. Listen to me very carefully. If he took custody of your son and he was in arrears in child support, we would not be having this discussion. We are having this discussion because his mother took custody of your son, and his mother supported him while you were receiving current support. Not a lot, little bit. You were receiving current support for him, and you cannot do that. You really cannot do that. You should have sent that money each and every week to her and said, I know it's not much. It's all that your son gives me for his support. As little as it is, I'm giving it to you to defray his expenses. You got it?
As she was so inspired about support, why'd she catch in my children's bonds that were supposed to help
No. Speak. Let her finish. Don't interrupt.
To get my ex-husband furniture, a stereo system with surround sound, a $300 chair, if she's so concerned about support.
That has nothing to do with you. If she, listen to me, if she wanted to take the $18 a week and blow it when you gave her the $18 a week and she went and took the $18 and put it in a Goodwill box, that's her prerogative. We're not saying that the money that you received for this child's support was enough to support him. It was not. It wasn't enough to keep him in orange juice. But it belonged to her, not to you, because you were not fulfilling your custodial responsibility by maintaining a home for him, which is the moral reason why you receive support. You were not maintaining a home for him. His grandmother was. So his grandmother was spending substantially more than $18 a week to support him. You had the obligation of forwarding that money to her. There's no discussion about it. You got the money, you keep it for a month, and you say, here's $18 times 4.3. I'm sending it to you by the month rather than by the week because it's just too much trouble, because I know you've been taking good care of him. And I assume if she wasn't taking good care of him, you would not have permitted him to stay there as his mother. Okay. Now, Miss Miller.
Yes.
What she owes you for the child support is $1,028, because that's the support that you should have forwarded to her for the 2 years that this child was in her custody. That's all. Thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You know, the Trevor, the dad, you know, he's a high school dropout. He just wished he was like me.
Choked my son.
I mean, this guy is just so jealous of me.
And he's threatened this boy right here.
I never laid any fingers on his kids. No, I did not.
How can a grown man threaten a child and choke a 15?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Peregrine versus Fleener, step forward, please.
Terry Peregrine is suing his daughter, Heather Fleener, for unpaid rent and bail money.
Mr. Peregrine, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that she owes you some money. She
Yes.
owes you money for rent and for bailing her out of jail.
That's correct.
Your daughter says that she fell on some financial hard times, that you agreed to help her out, that you were being a good father, and that but for your wife, who is not her mother, we would not be standing here today. Right?
Yes.
How old are you, Miss Fleener?
32.
You married?
Yes.
Is this your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
You have children?
Yes, I have 2.
Your father, according to his complaint, let you move into a home that was bequeathed to you and a sibling. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When you needed a place to live, he bought out the sibling So he now had the house. He allowed you and your husband and children to move in there at a modest rent of $400 a month, which didn't even, according to him, cover the mortgage. The agreement was that you were going to pay him the $400 a month. So far, is that correct?
Yes.
When did you move in?
I moved in the end of February 2006.
Are you still there?
Yes, ma'am, so far.
When did you stop paying rent?
I believe the last month I paid was November 2006.
So you didn't pay December, January, and February. 3 months?
Yes.
Why?
I lost my job.
What about him?
He was in a car accident in December, so he hasn't been able to work since then.
You stopped paying in November?
Right.
Well, what were you doing, anticipating the car accident?
No, I wasn't anticipating the car accident by any means.
If you stopped paying in November, you didn't pay November's rent.
You're right.
And if he was in a car accident in December, that doesn't make sense to me, Miss.
I guess I started buying Christmas presents for my kids and decided.
Well, that's irresponsible.
You're right.
That's irresponsible. Everybody pays rent or a mortgage or something. You don't buy presents until you pay your bills.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You're supposed to pay rent too.
Yeah.
What do you do all day?
Take care of my kids.
What does she do all day?
She worked.
For whom?
I worked for Olin Mills. I'm a photographer.
How much do you earn?
I no longer work for them, no. Not anymore.
Well, who do you work for?
I'm not working right now. He started working a couple weeks ago.
He says he stays home and takes care of his kids.
Not anymore.
Well, that's what I did when she was working. I stayed home. But through them 3 months we didn't pay rent, that's when I was looking for...
I was buying Christmas presents. How many months do they owe you for rent?
They owe those 3, and they also they were behind 2 months, half the rent for March and April of '06.
March and April.
I only received $200 for those months.
Why?
That when we first moved in, neither of us had a job then. That was before I started working, so I didn't get caught up.
When did you get arrested?
In January.
For what?
When I was taking pictures, I was falsely accused of giving pictures away for free, so I was arrested for theft.
Is that case still pending?
Yes.
Did you call your father to ask him to bail you out?
I called him because we didn't have a phone at home to go and let my husband know what was going on.
You mean you didn't ask your father to bail you out? There's not an answer.
I didn't, I guess.
How much was the bail?
$505, and she didn't ask me, she begged me.
What did she say?
She was crying, and she said, Dad, please bail me out of jail. I'll promise you I'll give you the money back as soon as I can.
You owe your father $2,105. Any reason why you shouldn't pay him?
Well, I believe that there are other people that owe him much more than what I owe him, which would be my little brother that isn't here today with me, but...
Yeah?
And he doesn't ask him for any money back.
And he don't have no kids, neither.
Let me explain something to you. If he wants to shower one of his children with gifts and money, that's his prerogative. You want to know why? It's his money. He can do whatever he wants with his money. Just like when you earn your money, you can do whatever you want with your money. And you, sir, when you earn your own money, can do whatever you want with your money. And if you want to buy your 12-year-old child an Xbox, and if you want to buy your 5-year-old child nothing, that's your prerogative. That's what you can do with your money. You tell somebody else what they can do with your money. Not that I necessarily believe you, but if that's the excuse that you've set up in your own mind with his help, because he evidently thinks, well, because he made 2 children, that gives him some sort of a license and prerogative to take money from people. That gives you no license at all. Anything makes babies. Fish make babies, dogs make babies, cats make babies, elephants make babies, people make babies. That doesn't make them a father. You know what makes somebody a father? When they take care of their babies. Then they become a father. Not when somebody else takes care of their babies by paying for a roof over their head. That makes them a father. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take care of the children that you make. You owe your father $2,105 and stop making excuses or letting him make excuses for you. Do you understand me? Yes, that's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
But when he moved out of the apartment after a disagreement, he stopped paying rent. He's not on the lease. He feels no obligation to pay rent when he's not living there. Okay. When did you move into the apartment with Mr. Parrish?
After we got engaged, December of '05,
Did he give you a ring?
Yes, he did. I have it with me.
Okay.
And I even went with my mom and bought a wedding dress, and I bought my daughter's dresses. We were going to have a ceremony on the beach. And
when
then,
did you move in together?
Mid-February of '06. And he went with me to the leasing office. When we went to fill out the forms for the application fee, which was $150, and to transfer within the same complex to a 2-bedroom, that was $500.
So you had a 1-bedroom apartment with your 2 children?
Correct.
Where were you living, sir?
I was renting a house in Chesapeake.
With
which is
his mother.
About 35 minutes from where she was living.
Okay, so you weren't living together in the 1-bedroom apartment?
No.
No.
I'm looking at him.
Sorry.
So, you moved into the 2-bedroom apartment in February of 2006, and the lease was in your name only.
Correct, but we had discussed, we had an agreement that we would rent the 2-bedroom together for 1 year to save up money to buy a house for after we got married.
Good.
And he paid half the rent for 10 months.
Right, I got you, while he lived there.
Right, correct.
And he paid the rent faithfully, half of the rent, despite the fact that he's only one person out of 4 living in the apartment, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, but they were minors.
I don't care if they're minors or not. He's one person out of 4.
Correct.
Living in the apartment. Do you get child support for your 2 children?
I get for 1 child because he has them half of the month and I have them half the month.
So you get child support for 1 child?
Correct.
How much?
$400 a month.
Okay. And he paid half of the other expenses on the apartment for the 10 months that he was living there?
Yes, he did. He paid half the utilities.
Half of everything?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, what happened when he moved out?
He didn't give me any notice. He just...
So you must have had a disagreement.
We got into a fight.
About what?
I had asked him to do the dishes, and he was watching TV.
Just you could get a turn.
And I waited about 2 hours. He still hadn't done it, so I went ahead and did it. And I got upset with him. I said, thanks a lot for helping me out around the house. You know, you eat on the dishes too. And he said, well, I was going to do it. I didn't know there was a time limit. And he started yelling at me. My youngest daughter was home. He was yelling in front of her. So I'm like, well, I don't want you yelling around her. He said, well, then I won't. And he went and packed his bags. I said, where are you going? He's like, I'm moving out. He gave me no notice. I said, what do you mean? Are you going to a hotel room? And he's like, no, I'm moving out. I'm not coming back.
Miss Holtz, there must have been some clue to you prior to that things weren't going well.
We had had a few disagreements, yes, about...
So things were not going well?
Correct.
Well, you don't want your children to be involved with that sort of hostile environment, do you?
No, but he had only yelled one other time in a year and a half. And
well,
it wasn't
fine. That's fine.
Day occurrence.
That's fine. You don't want it to get any worse, do you? You don't want your children in an environment that's not healthy.
No, that's why.
So that it would be a... Shh. So that it would be a good idea that he left.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
But I felt he was obligated for the last 2 months of the rent.
Where are you living now?
I just moved to a smaller apartment that I could afford on my own.
Just a second. How much rent was this apartment that you moved into together?
$1,203 a month.
And how much was the rent in the apartment that you had been living in?
It was $988. The 1-bedroom, and my new rent is $895.
So the difference in rent was $200 a month between the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom.
Right, but if we wouldn't have gotten engaged, I wouldn't have gotten that apartment. I would have gotten something I could afford on my own, Your Honor.
I look at objective things. Objectively, you were paying $1,000 on one, and this is $1,200.
And I knew I couldn't afford it if I didn't have a roommate, or if we hadn't gotten engaged. I would have gotten a smaller apartment on my own.
Good.
And I also have bank checks for the transfer fee and the application fee, which he agreed to pay half of. And I also have harassment. I want like $1,000 for phone harassment. I have phone records of him calling.
You mean after? You just a second, Miss Holt. Do you mean to tell me after he moved out, because he said he wanted it over?
Correct.
He started calling you. You didn't call him.
No.
Just a second. Just listen to me. You just listen to me. You didn't call him.
No, Your Honor.
He called you.
Yes, and I have tape recording of it, calling me terrible names.
You never called me.
Just a second. Mr. Parrish.
Yes, ma'am.
When you left, sir, it is your claim that Miss Holtz called you.
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say when she called you?
She called me a lot of adjectives that I won't use here, and I left. The reason I left was more than just the dishes.
Go ahead, sir.
To back up and give you some background of just that day, I won't be long-winded. It was a Sunday morning. I had some work to do. I was going to do it early in the morning. Instead, I put that work off until the afternoon. While she laid in bed, I did the dishes, fed the kids, cleaned the kitchen, did 2 loads of laundry, put all that away, spruced the house up while she's still in bed, asked her if there's anything else I can do before I went and did my work. No, everything's fine. I went away and worked for, it took me about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm a small contractor.
Go ahead.
It took about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back. The NFL football playoffs were on. I watched the second half of the first game. The next game was the Dallas game, which I'm a huge fan. She knows that. I sat down to watch that. In the meantime, she had gone in the kitchen and started going off about everything. I had left a Walmart receipt on the counter from where I bought some groceries the day before, which I bought my share and then some of the groceries for all 4 of us. She started griping about the receipt on the table. You know, why'd you leave this receipt here? You want money from me? I said, did I ever ask you for money? Is this why you left the receipt? She on and on and on. This goes on for over an hour.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Shh, don't interrupt him.
After the conclusion of that, she goes and stands in front of the television, or not directly in front of it, but right beside it, hand on her hip, and says, you've watched one football game, now I expect you're going to sit here and watch another one? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I'm going to watch another one. You know, I'm a Dallas fan. I'm going to watch the game. And she said something, and that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I got up. I had some shirts and some clothes in the apartment. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm leaving. I've had enough.
Your Honor, he never works on Sundays. He hates working on Sundays. He did not go to work
Your
that
Honor,
day.
I'm a small contractor.
What difference does it make whether he
Because
went to
he's
work or
lying.
not?
It's showing that he lies.
I
He's
did
lying.
go to work.
Ms. Holtz, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And what doesn't make sense to me is I listened to him only for a couple of minutes, and I've made a judgment, because I'm usually good at making judgments, that he's not a nut.
Thank you.
I don't.
You haven't heard this.
Oh, I don't think he's a nut. I think maybe he was stretched to the limit, but I don't think he's a nut. And I think when he left, he probably would have left you alone. But you started bugging him because you were angry, just as you are angry right now. You are so angry right now, you can't even contain yourself.
I'm just nervous, Your Honor.
You're angry. You're still angry.
I'm angry at what he called me, yes. He called me very vulgar and obscene things, and I don't deserve that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I could understand if she was going to sue me for bigamy, because in that pretty little head there's about 12 personalities.
This is what I get on messages.
Mr. Parrish.
Just letting you know.
Let him show his true colors.
And later today,
Defense is he broke the windshield in the car instead of breaking your face, because that's how mad he was. Am I reading it right?
people, Judge Judy. Natalie Holtz claims ex-fiancé Thomas Parrish owes for breaking their lease and for harassing her over the phone. Thomas claims he moved out because of Natalie's constant nagging.
I'm going to ask you again to answer my question and answer it honestly. After he left that day, who called who first?
He called me.
First.
Yes, he called me 27 times.
Just a second. So what did he say, Miss Holtz, when he called you after he left?
He said that I only think about myself, that I'm a self-centered, and I can't repeat what he called me. And yes, I did call him once. I asked him for my key back.
Just a second. My question was, who called who first?
He called me first. I have the phone records.
You have a phone record that shows all your outgoing calls?
Yes, I do, but his
Great.
is first.
Great. Let me take a look at what you have. Put a mark next to where you called him.
I'll put a star where I called him. All the other check marks are him calling me.
Just go back to the beginning.
The beginning is where he left on the 6th.
What's your phone number, sir?
286.
At your mother's house?
That's my cell phone. That's the only.
At your cell phone?
That's the only phone I use, yes, ma'am.
Well, on the 6th, madam, 286 is outgoing.
It says incoming.
Outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Then you have a couple of incoming. But on the 6th, I want you to point to where I've checked this off, please, and let her look at it.
All the highlighted ones. Okay.
I'm not talking highlighted. Look at where I made the check marks.
That was in the afternoon. He was still home. Or he was still, he hadn't moved out yet. That was in the afternoon.
Why would she call me?
The next day. It's the next day when he started harassing me.
Listen to me. What? Hey, give it back to me.
Incoming, incoming, incoming. These are all incoming.
Miss Holtz, you don't want me to think you're a nut, do you?
No, ma'am.
On the 6th, which is the day he left, according to you.
That night.
I'm speaking. You called him at a time when you said he wasn't out working. because you said he doesn't work on Sundays. So clearly, you called him at that cell phone number, 216, 252, and 252.
Yes, he went to the grocery store.
So what'd you call him 3 times for?
He called me, and I called him back on several occasions.
So he went to the grocery store for whom?
For all of us. We all had to eat.
So he was out on family business?
Yes, before we got in a fight, yes, ma'am, he was.
After I finished working.
Just a second. Okay. Then the next phone call on the 7th of January was a phone call from you to him at 8:09 p.m. and he called you back at 8:29. You called him first. Then you called him at 9:10 p.m., 6:59 a.m., 7:30 a.m.
He wouldn't return my call to get my key back, Your Honor.
Please.
And I have the text messages right here of all the incoming text messages.
Okay, Miss Holtz, I'm going
to
listen to me, Matt. Get over it.
It's okay to call somebody the B word and the C word?
Get over it. Sticks and stones break your bones. Names will never hurt you. Did your mother ever teach you that? You have to get over it. It's finished. You may be angry. You may be angry that you devoted 10 months of your time to him. He may not have said nice things to you. I mean, you can tell.
I've had 24 calls since the 9th on here.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I'm looking at your phone records.
I don't have them.
You called him first.
To get my key back and my mailbox key back.
Change the lock. What? Go ahead.
I just want to clear up a couple of things. You've done a nice job of clearing up the harassment. First of all, I don't understand her suing me for ever how much she sued me for, $1,200, $1,300, whatever it is. I could understand if she was going to sue me for bigamy. I could understand that, because in that pretty little head there's about 12 personalities.
Mr. Parrish.
This is what I get on messages.
Mr. Parrish, listen to me. Not necessary, sir.
Okay, I just letting you know.
Let him show his true colors.
Not necessary.
Okay.
She may be stressed. She's a single mother.
She's a good mother.
She's a single mother. Takes care of kids. Money, I'm sure, is tight. I'm sure it was much more comfortable when you were there.
I understand.
Much less stressful financially when you were there. You're not there anymore. A life she anticipated is over. But I don't think that you're responsible for any rent when you weren't living there. I think that you took care of more than your fair share of the bills when you lived there in a family that was really not yours. You left. The responsibility is hers. She was angry. And these phone records do not support harassment on your part, sir. I mean, common sense dictates that if you left, you would have been just as happy to be left alone. Period. But very hard when you are stressed to deal with that kind of change. I get it. But you're not entitled to any money, madam. The case is dismissed. That's
Your
all.
Honor.
That's all.
Please excuse me. Step out.
He was the one that had the 6 or 7 different personalities.
I don't know what her problem is. I don't know.
Are you brothers?
Yes, we are.
The Boots brothers.
Yep. Yeah.
You ought to make a movie out of it. Boots brothers. They say it wasn't them. When did this happen, Miss Lager?
On my 21st birthday, June 3rd, 2006.
And where was your car at the time?
It was at my boyfriend's mother's house, Denalda Foley's.
That would be you?
Yes.
Could you stand up? Because you weren't there.
Correct, I was not there.
When had you parked your car in front of your boyfriend's mother's house?
Well, I was letting her borrow it for quite some time because her vehicle was getting fixed at the time.
What kind of car did you have?
It's a 2001 Nabira Daewoo.
Could you keep your voice?
It was a 2001 Nabira Daewoo.
What is that?
It's a 4-door silver
Nabira?
vehicle. Nabira.
Where is that made?
I believe Korea, but I'm not sure.
I never heard of it. I'm so pleased that you didn't. I'm sure it's a lovely car.
It was a lovely car.
Ms. Foley, do you remember June 3rd, 2006?
Yes.
I knew you were home on June 3rd, 2006. Which one of the Boots boys is going to speak?
I will.
And what is your first name?
Brent.
And yours?
My name's Nick.
No, I think I want Nick to speak. Now, Nick, how far do you live from Miss Foley?
Only like 2 blocks.
You have any reason to be near Miss Foley's house?
I'm best friends with their kid.
Keep your voice up, Nick.
I'm best friends with their son,
What's her son's name?
Bart.
Is that person here today?
Nah, he's not.
Your younger brother?
Yeah, it was my younger brother.
How long have you been friends?
Since I was like 2.
Tell me about June 2006.
Well,
No. Don't look there. Don't look there.
Well, we were at her house. Sorry. We were at her house, like having a party or whatever, chilling. Just a get together. I could
How many
say.
people were there?
Just like 4 of us.
Which 4? The 2 Boots boys?
Her, And then my girlfriend was there, and then her son was there.
There were 5 of you there. That would be 5. Let's count
Or
them.
other than me.
Nick, you want to count them? That would be 5 altogether, right? And when had you started chilling?
I'm not sure what time it was.
Around 9 or so, I'd say. 8 or 9.
And then what happened, Nick?
We were just drinking and whatnot, and then we left.
Drinking. What were you drinking?
Vodka,
Where did you get the vodka from?
I believe.
No! Don't speak unless I speak to you. I want Nick. Don't speak. Where did you get the vodka from?
I believe it was from her, because it was
From
her
who?
21st birthday. Jessica.
Was she home?
No.
Well, where did you get the vodka from?
We met up with them earlier on that day.
And she gave you a bottle of vodka?
Well, she purchased it for us. We gave her the money.
So you gave Miss Lager the cash, and she went into a liquor store and purchased how much vodka?
A liter.
A liter. That's a big bottle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
And what were you mixing the liter with?
We were just taking shots and drinking pop.
Shots and pop.
Shots and pop, yes.
And then what happened?
Nothing. We all had fun, and then once the night was over, we all went home.
And didn't see Miss Lager's car? No. Miss Lager, did you purchase vodka for them?
No, I did not. No, I do not purchase vodka for underage minors.
Why do you think they would make up that kind of story?
To make it look good for themselves?
Nah. They could have just said, they found it. So I believe that you purchased it for them.
It was my 21st birthday. Why would I purchase alcohol for them?
I have no idea, because they were with your boyfriend's little brother.
I wasn't even near them all day. I was with my mother all day.
Okay. Miss Foley, tell me what you saw on June 3rd with regard to the Boots boys and Miss Lager's car.
I was at home. My son Bartley came up late that night and said, "Mother, Brent and Nick are out kicking in Jesse's car. You need to come out and make him stop." So I went down, I looked out the landing. Brent was on the hood of the car, the roof of the car.
Brent, why couldn't you let Nick go on the hood of the car?
So I went down 2 more flights of stairs. By the time I got out there, Brent was off of the car, standing by the passenger mirror. Nick was standing in front of the car trying to kick the headlight. And he had stated to me that he had kicked the headlight and it didn't break. And Brent said he kicked him, it didn't come off all the way. And I asked him why they were doing that, and they were mad at Jessica, I guess, at the time. So
why were you mad at Jessica?
We were mad at Jessica, but...
Well, tell me why you were mad at her. I just want to know why you were mad at her.
Stole a digital camera from my ex-girlfriend out of our house.
Oh, then I don't believe that she bought you alcohol. There you go. See what happened? If you were mad at her, why would you give her money to buy you alcohol on the same day?
She was always around anyways.
Oh.
Because I used to be best friends with him over there, her boyfriend.
We all hung out every day.
Now, she's the mother of your really good friend, right?
Yes.
So you know her for a long time.
Most of my
You
life.
go to her house? Put your hand down. You go to her house?
Every day, practically.
She sometimes gives you a sandwich? You know?
I eat over there occasionally, I could say.
So you think there's any reason why she would lie about you?
No, I wouldn't see a reason why she would.
Why would she lie about her son's best friend, who she sees every day of his life, who she's very good to? Why would she lie about him?
I don't know.
Do you understand my problem here, Nick?
Yes, I do.
You know where I'm coming from?
Sort of, yeah.
Are you twins?
No.
Who's older?
I'm older.
What about your older brother here? Did he ever go over to Miss Foley's house?
Yep.
Eat at her house?
We didn't really know much people in the area, so we were there all the time.
And Miss Foley was always nice to you?
Most of the time, yes.
Could you think of any reason why she would tell such a horrendous lie about you vandalizing a car that she was driving? Huh?
Maybe because Jessica's going to give her some money for it or something.
No. Then you would have to say that she's a liar and a thief.
She is.
Miss Foley?
Oh, not Miss Foley, but Jessica.
I'm talking about Miss Foley.
No, she's not a thief.
Miss Foley is the one who identified you, not Miss Lager. You want to look at Miss Foley and tell her she's a liar?
On this
Nick!
part, yes.
You want to look at Miss Foley and tell her she's a liar? You followed your brother.
Yeah.
No, say this. Miss Foley, you're a liar.
I wish she wouldn't lie, that's what.
Uh-huh. Evidently, you were a better friend than your older brother, because you couldn't say it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
21-year-olds are morons. 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds are double morons. They shouldn't even be allowed out of the house after 9 o'clock at night.
And later today,
He was not like that the way we were.
He was always like, you mean he's a psychopath? He's got bipolar disorder?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jessica Lager says former friends Brent and Nick Boots vandalized her car by jumping on the hood and kicking the doors.
Now, when you do something wrong, fess up. Now, it's possible that you two morons don't remember because you were drinking a liter of vodka what you did on the night of June 3rd. That's possible. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
21.
Can I see an estimate on fixing your car and photographs, please? Are you still friendly with her younger son?
Not really.
Was he also involved? Well, you don't know. Was your youngest son involved in this?
He didn't. Nope.
Was he? Just a second.
No, he did not do anything to the car.
Did you want to say something?
I was going to say I thought you were talking about him, but I am friends with her youngest son, yes.
No, I asked if her youngest son did anything to this car.
No, he wasn't there. He was upstairs the whole time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Did you hear what he said? He said no, he wasn't there. He was upstairs all the time. You just let him go and go and go, and after a while they just, you know.
See, they'll sign off.
They just sign off on it, right?
It was in an accident.
Yeah, her car was in an accident before that, and it was all dented, and she was trying to say that we did all that when it couldn't
How
possibly.
much did you do?
I didn't do nothing.
Well, yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Now, if you said to me, listen, we got a little drunk, and we acted stupid around the car, but a lot of this damage was done before.
This stuff happens all the time in our area.
What, that you jump on the hood of a car?
No.
I asked you a question. Your brother couldn't say it. If Miss Foley identified you two boys who were lifelong friends of one of her children, there would have to be a reason. Because when people identify someone who's caused damage to their property, they want the right people punished. They don't want the wrong people punished. They want the right people to pay for the damage. Now, if she had some axe to grind with you, I could understand it. But you've given me no motive for her to lie about it.
She wasn't even there. This is completely false and erroneous. And
yeah, no, you're erroneous.
No.
You're erroneous and irrelevant. Erroneous and irrelevant.
And the car's not even worth that much to begin with.
You're absolutely right. How much did you pay for the car?
Around $7,000.
Okay, well, I'm not going to give you $11,000 to fix it.
No, I don't.
No. You could go buy yourself a new car.
Car can't even drive down the road straight. You let go of the wheel and you'll
Listen,
be in
you
the
couldn't
ditch.
walk straight. That's not up to you, young man. That's not up to you. When you damage somebody's property, you take it as you take it. That's it. And when you act like a fool, that's why they don't let people drink until they're 21 years old, because even 21-year-olds are morons. 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds are double morons. They shouldn't even be allowed out of the house after 9 o'clock at night. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's scandalous and she's money hungry.
I was asking like $1,500 to begin with, and they said I was shady for asking $1,500.
They got money that they shouldn't have got.
Jessica's a thief. She took his digital camera from his girlfriend, and she walked out of the grocery store with 2 rotisserie chickens.
I'm just surprised that the boys said that they didn't do it.
It's ruining a long friendship. Not going to talk to her.
Just make sure you trust the people, because I trust them.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of parent versus parent. Step forward, please.
Sonny Parent is suing his ex-wife, Stephanie Parent, for the return of a laptop computer. Stephanie says that Sonny needs to move on.
You two folks had a short-term marriage, and from what I gather, a relatively amicable divorce. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes. Did you have lawyers?
No.
Did you use the court system?
Yes.
Filed papers?
Yes.
Clerks had to read the papers?
Correct.
Judge had to read the papers? Judge's law secretary had to read the papers before you were granted the divorce? So you gobbled up your share of the justice system, right?
Yeah. Correct.
You're not going to gobble up any more time over nonsense. This is what this case is about. While you were married, there was a computer purchased.
Correct.
You say it was purchased for your business. She says it was purchased as a gift for her. I don't care. He doesn't care. You have two different versions of how she got her hands on the computer. You say she borrowed it. She says you borrowed it. I don't care. He doesn't care. How much was the computer?
$699.
When was it purchased?
In July, I do believe.
July 13th, 2006.
Yes.
So this $700 computer is now maybe worth $400. Who has the computer?
I do.
Do you want the computer or do you want to pay him $200?
I'll take the computer and pay him $200.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused.
How long?
6 months, Your Honor.
And was that violation of probation? What was it for?
That was for a DUI.
Clearly not your first.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you and the defendant made up the following agreement. While you were incarcerated, the defendant was going to clean up your house where you had lived with your son. I assume this is the son.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the house is probably not fit for human beings with two men living there and not taking care of it. I assume that you knew that, and you told her that if she cleaned up the house and made it ready for renting, that when you got out of prison, you would move in with her and rent the house so that you would have some additional income. So far, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
The son was living in your house.
Yes.
The defendant and her daughter came to live in your house, and she did what she agreed to do, which was put your house in condition to be rented. Tell me what you did to get the house ready.
Your Honor, you're absolutely right. This house was a complete disaster. I had to have everything done to it. I had to have carpet cleaning. I had to have a maid come in and help clean the walls, the bathrooms. I had to have it painted.
How much of the house was painted?
The living rooms and the boys' bedroom.
Who paid for that?
The kitchen. I did.
Who paid for the renting of the dumpster and all that other stuff?
I have all the receipts right here.
Okay. And that has nothing to do with your labor?
Nothing to do with my labor.
Then you started to have problems with Mr. Russell's son. What kind of problems did you have?
He was doing very bad in school. He was getting D's and F's. Ditching.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Stealing things, stealing cell phones, stealing money.
From whom?
People at the school, I guess. I assume his friends.
Jan down. Okay, so he was having some trouble. All right, so this is what happened, Mr. Russell. The defendant said, and he went to live with whom?
My grandparents.
You told Ms. Haig that this wasn't going to work out, that because she couldn't live with your son, you couldn't live with her, and that she would have to move back to her house, and you weren't going to rent your house because you were going to have to move back into your house with your son when you got out of jail. So far correct?
Somewhat correct, yes, Your Honor.
And Mrs. Haig left, and it is your claim that she wrote out 2 checks from your checkbook without your permission.
Correct.
And you want that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant says, whatever checks I wrote out with your permission. I used them to cover certain expenses that I had. So let us assume, Mr. Russell, that Ms. Haig has bills in order to put your house in order. Did you compensate her for that?
Yes, Your Honor, somewhat.
How?
I did.
Not somewhat. Did you
yes.
give her $3,000?
Not the whole $3,000, but close to it before I went in.
How much?
I gave her approximately $2,000 cash, bought her a new garage door, which she needed, and a trailer hitch of hers to be installed in my truck to haul her trailer to my house, which she said she would leave into my truck if I paid that money, which she decided not to do.
So what you're telling me is, forgetting all the other fluff, you gave her $2,000 in cash?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did he give you $2,000 in cash?
Approximately $2,000, I'd say.
Okay. Tell me how much she wrote out of your checking account with the
She wrote 2 checks for $5,450. There was 2 checks, one for $4,800 and one for $650.
Did you give her permission to write out either one of those checks?
No, I did not. I asked her to mail me a blank check, and I would fill it out and give it back to her, which I've got proof.
For what?
For approximately $600, $700 for her efforts, just so we can call it even and depart on good terms.
Mr. Russell, you're making a few things up as we go along, sir. The way you said that to me, just for her efforts. What efforts are you talking about?
Her hauling stuff to the dump, she claimed, cleaning the house, painting it.
Well, that's a big job, sir. How long did that take her to do?
I'm not really sure. She had one of my friends helping her do it at no cost. Well,
that's good. How long did it take you to put the house in order?
Over 2 months.
Was she there 2 months?
I don't believe she was living at my house because I was calling her when I was in jail at her house, and she was answering. So she was living at her house, but going to my house to do work.
Okay, so that would be the $650.
Approximately, yes. I was going to write her a check for it, but she decided to do it herself.
Okay. Now, you wrote one check for $4,800. What was that for?
The $4,800 he asked me to write because he was trying to get out of jail in a half time, and he wanted to say he had hardship. He needed to get out and support us, and he wasn't allowed to have any money in his bank. So I sent him a blank check, and the jail would not allow him to have it, and he told me to cash it and get the money out of his bank.
So then what did you do with it?
I kept $2,800, and I put $2,000 in his
What did you do
safe.
with the $2,800?
Paid my bills.
Oh, well, then you owe him that. You can't have it both ways. Do you understand? If he gave you $2,000 in cash and you took $2,800 to satisfy those bills, you can't have it twice. Are you following me?
Yes.
Good. Did she give you any money?
No, Your Honor, she didn't give me anything back.
Where did you put the money?
In his safe inside his trailer. And I took his trailer, all his stuff back over to his house, and I gave the keys to his parents.
Your Honor, it's a little firebox with a broken lock. Doesn't even work.
It's not
a
little.
safe. It's very small, 1 foot by 1 foot, and there was nothing in it but my birth certificate and my son's birth certificate. The trailer wasn't broken into. It was all locked up. She didn't put anything back.
Right. I believe that. I believe she didn't put anything back. You want to know why she didn't put anything back? She didn't put anything back because she was very angry with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I understand that she was angry, but she can't steal your money.
Also,
I didn't steal his money.
Yes, you did.
No.
Also, in cleaning
Sure
up
you
my
did.
house, she threw away many things which she didn't have permission to throw away.
Well, that's your problem. You should have been more specific. You should have put red dots on everything that you wanted to keep. You told her to clean up your mess, and she cleaned up your mess.
The whole
Shouldn't
house
such
should have
a
been
mess.
thrown in the dump.
But you can't steal his money if you're
I didn't
angry.
steal his money, Your Honor.
Yes,
I
you
put it
should.
in there.
I don't believe
If
you.
anybody stole it, it's his
I don't
son.
believe you. Somebody that after spending 2 months cleaning up somebody else's, painting and cleaning and getting people over there and going to the dumpster and making 10 trips to the dumpster, and all of a sudden he says to you, sorry, babe, when I come out, it's over. And you say, all right, sweetheart, I'm going to take this money, I'm going to cash this check, I'm going to leave it all for you. Just take what I think is mine. You took what you thought you were entitled to. You can't do that. Things didn't work out, they didn't work out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, there are women who spend 25 years cleaning up after a man and they end up with nothing. It only took you 2 months to end up with nothing.
And later today,
What kind of drugs were you abusing?
Meth.
That's serious stuff.
Very serious.
Brian Russell says his ex-girlfriend Patty Haig stole his personal belongings and money while he was in jail. Patty claims everything she took was with Brian's permission.
Now, are you keeping the place neat?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm attempting to as best I can with 2 men there.
What does that mean? Are you suggesting to me that men are innately slobs?
I don't know if all are, but we are.
Why? You don't look like a slob, Mr. Russell. Look how nicely you're dressed. Got a nice shirt, you got a nice tie, your son's well dressed, he's got a nice clean shirt on, his hair is cut. As far as I can see, he doesn't have any piercings or anything else that I'm looking at, right?
I would consider my house very clean. If you walked in, you'd say it was probably so-so.
After I got done with it.
Yeah, well, didn't work out. Listen, there are women who spend 25 years cleaning up after a man and they end up with nothing. It only took you 2 months to clean up after your man to end up with nothing. Do you understand?
Yes.
You've got to give him back his money. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,800. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think he's a little bit upset about his son not being there and us not being back together.
His grades were bad, but he actually improved them. He got 2 A's and 2 C's his last report card.
He doesn't clean up after himself. All I asked him to do was pick up after himself.
I was kind of dirty, but I was probably doing 300% better than I usually do.
Next time when I meet someone and I do fall in love, to be careful. Don't leave all your possessions and everything in their control. Be a little more careful and watch your money.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of La Bozetta versus Doracus. Step forward, please.
14-year-old Demetrius Labozetta and his mother Frances are suing his former friend, 14-year-old Alexander Doracus, and his mother Lydia. Demetrius claims Alexander pushed him in the pool and broke his cell phone.
How old are you, Alex?
I'm 14.
That's your brother?
Yep.
It's your twin brother?
Mm-hmm.
That would be yes.
Oh, yes.
And what's his name?
David.
What's his name?
Demetrius.
Dimitri, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
He went to my school.
I'd like you to keep your voice up.
He went to my school last year.
Was he a friend of yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And you liked him?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you like him?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever go to his house?
No, ma'am.
Did he ever come to your house?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
Quite a few times.
More than 5?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
More than 10?
Yes, ma'am.
How far do you live from each other?
20 minutes from now.
And how do you usually get to his house?
By bike or
walking, ma'am.
Does he always tell you when he's coming over?
No, ma'am.
Did your mother ever tell you you were not to allow him in your house?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
When she's not at work, ma'am.
No, when she is at work?
Yeah, when she's at
when
work.
she is at work. But he does come over when she's at work.
Yes, ma'am.
You have other friends over there, too, when she's at work.
Yes, ma'am.
So you don't listen to her?
No, ma'am.
Do you lie to her and tell her that nobody was at the house when she goes to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you lie to her and tell her nobody was there, do you tell her so that you want her to believe you?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you believe him?
Absolutely not.
So you don't believe him?
No.
So you know he's lying?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to set the record straight, that we don't have angels over here.
Exactly.
Now, sometime in August of this year, according to you, Dimitri, you went over to Alex and David's house. His mother wasn't home. You were playing around, and somehow you got pushed in the pool, and you destroyed your cell phone and an electric game, and your mother wants the defendant, the mother, to pay for your cell phone and the game.
Yes, ma'am.
When did Alex tell you to come over to the house?
About the same day that I called him and asked him if I can come over.
And what did you used to do when you went over to Alex's house to play?
We used to just hang out in his room, listen to music, talk.
Nothing bad?
No, nothing bad. We just stayed
So
in
you
the
want
house.
to tell me what happened on, anybody have the date, August what?
Around the 29th, 30th.
All right, tell me what happened when you went over on the pool day.
Well...
Look at me when you're talking.
Sorry, ma'am. Well, when I was going on to his house, I met them at a gas station with 2 other kids.
At the gas station or at his house?
At a gas station. And for a while, and then we went to his house.
All of you?
Yes, ma'am.
How many were there?
Alex, David, and 2 other boys.
So there were 5 of you all together?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And we all was in his backyard because he didn't want anybody in the house because he didn't want nothing like destroyed or nothing.
Good idea, Alex.
I was going on the way in his house to go make a phone call.
What, but he told you not to go in the house?
I know that, ma'am, but it was too noisy and outside. I was going to go inside in his garage to make a phone call. And then I passed Alex, and all of a sudden he pushed me into the pool. And when I was in the pool, I rushed to get out of the pool and ran inside in the garage to dry off my stuff.
So you were playing around?
More or less, not really.
Yeah, right. I have things to do today. Let me hear you.
Your Honor, basically, why I'm here today is what I'm trying to teach my son is consequences. Like when you do something, you have to suffer consequences if it's wrong or not, and, I brought it to the attention of the mom.
That's not the mother's fault.
But the reason why he's saying that he pushed him in the pool because Demetrius was in his way.
So what? They were playing. They were friends.
But why would he push him in the pool fully clothed with sneakers on? And
how do you figure that's his mother's fault?
I'm not saying that it's his mother's fault.
Well, you are saying that it's his
minor,
mother's fault.
It's his mother's responsibility.
No. Not in this instance. You have 5 kids who are hanging around a home where there is no adult present, and that's what happens. You have 5 14-year-old kids. Somebody gets thrown in the pool and his cell phone gets destroyed. You want the mother who's working to take care of it? Her son was not supposed to have friends over when she wasn't home. That's the rule. She knows he lies, but she has 2 choices. Either she can stay home and watch him, or she can work and support her family. So she chooses to work and support her family so that they have food to eat and that somebody can come put chlorine in the pool.
That's right. You're right.
So it's not her fault. Not her fault. Did Alex's mother ever tell you that she didn't want you there when she wasn't there?
No, ma'am.
Never told you?
Oh, that's a lie.
Shh. Did she ever tell you that she didn't want you in the house when she wasn't there?
Not directly towards me.
Who was it directed towards?
Well, one day I was at their house, and when his mother came home, and she was yelling at them because she wanted nobody in the house.
When she wasn't home?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, may I say something?
There you go.
Before he went to the house, I asked him to call up to make sure that it was okay that he comes over. And according to her son...
No, not according to her son. That's not something that he does. That's something that you do, Miss Labacera. You call the mother.
Right.
And you say to the mother, is it okay if the kids come over to play?
Right.
That's your job. That's not him.
Right.
They lie. They lie like rugs. He lies, he lies, he lies. They all lie. They all lie to get what they want. And they're only 14. Wait till they get to be 16. Wait till they want to use the car. Wait till they want somebody to sleep over. Wait till you want to go away on a vacation when he's 17 and he says, I don't think I want to go with you. I have too much homework to take care of. But you can't pass the buck. You can't say, well, I told my son to call, and my son called Alex, and then your son came back and said, sure, it's okay.
Right there.
What?
I was standing right there when he made the phone call.
Miss Lapa said, how many children do you have?
I have 3 men.
You have 3. Is he the oldest?
Yes.
Learn from your mistakes, madam. My children are much older. When they're teenagers, you know how you can tell they're lying? When their mouths are moving. You understand? Especially when they want to do something that they know is wrong. Anyway, your case is dismissed. Be friends. Be nice. Good.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You were having a party?
It was more like a get-together. I wouldn't say it was a huge party.
How many people were at the house?
8, I believe.
8, including you and your husband?
My husband wasn't there at that time. Including me, it was about 8.
But your husband was also present in the house that night?
Yes, he came in around 2 a.m.
And he was a co-worker of yours?
Yes.
Where do you work, sir?
We work at a place called Nielsen Media Research.
How long have you worked together?
About 2 months now. We started at the exact same time. We were in the same training class, and that's how we got to be acquainted with one another.
Where did you work before that, Mr. Massey?
Actually, right before this, I worked at a place called Publishers Printing for 2 or 3 months. But the drive, I don't drive, and my mom was having to take me, and it was just too much trouble. This place is like 1 mile from the house sometimes.
Great. Okay, Miss Mason, tell me about the theft from your house.
That night when I had went to bed, the money was on my bookcase. I woke up in the morning, I'm going to say about 8:30. He had come in my room. He had stayed in our guest room because he had just fallen asleep there. And he came in, and we were talking.
And where was your husband?
He was downstairs doing laundry.
Go ahead.
And I had just, gotten up out of my bed, and I went downstairs to get a sweatshirt. But when I had went down the stairs, my money was there. I saw my bookcase, which was right next to my bedroom door. I saw it. And when I came back up, he had met me on the top of my stairs. So I didn't go back into my room before we left. And when I came back home, my money was gone.
Came back home when?
From dropping him off, taking him home.
And what time was that?
Between 10 and 10:30 a.m.
How many people live in your home?
Me, my husband, and my son.
How old is your son?
He's 4.
Okay. I read your complaint very carefully, Miss Mason. Your complaint says, by 4 a.m. everyone was gone, so I went up to my room. I made sure that the $500 I had been saving for his cell phone and Christmas shopping was still nudged between the book and a box of magic erasers. The money was folded in half, and the corner was visible to the eye.
Yes.
This says you did this at 4 o'clock in the morning, not at 8 o'clock in the morning when you said he came into your room.
I did. I checked my money at 4. That's when I went to bed. And I got up at 8. And it was still there.
Well, you don't say that you checked it here at 8. You said that you checked it at 4. I didn't understand, madam, why anyone would have a party at their house and leave money at a place where you would see the money if you were hiding it. If you're hiding money, you hide money so that you don't see it. You put it in a certain place so it would be safe, right?
Yes.
So I didn't understand why you would put it someplace where it would be safe and let a corner of the money stick out.
It wasn't so much that I was hiding it from anybody. Nobody should have been in my room.
All right. Let's move on. So what you're saying is the reason you believe that the defendant stole your money is because he had access to it, and as far as you knew, he was the only one who was there in between the times that you saw it, present and missing.
Yes.
You have any other proof that he stole your money?
My mother had spoken with him on the phone.
Good morning.
Your daughter says that you spoke to the defendant about this.
I did, Your Honor.
May I interject for a moment, Judge?
No.
Okay. But I was saying...
No.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I spoke to the defendant about 3 or 4 days after that. I said to him, I know you stole the money out of the home. He said I didn't. He denied it. I kept telling him, you did take that money out of that home. He said that he did not take it, but he did.
Okay. Did he say anything else?
No. He just told me he did.
Okay, man, when this woman called me, first of all, she never identified herself as Laura's mom.
I don't care. Why are you responding so? The woman didn't inculpate you at all in this crime. Why are you so insistent upon responding?
Okay, it's just that she called up and told me she was a police officer and said that she was, this and that.
She has difficulty.
Clearly.
You have been arrested, Mr. Massey?
Yes.
For what?
DUIs.
How many?
3. That's why I don't drive. I walk to work.
Is that why you don't drive?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than DUIs, have you ever been arrested for anything else?
I have.
Is not an answer.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The drug, like marijuana.
When?
2004.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
So, you drink too much and you smoke a little marijuana?
Well, I did.
You did? You don't anymore?
No.
Ever been arrested for theft?
Nope, never.
What kind of money do you earn?
$8.50 an hour.
Who do you live with?
I live with my mom, because when I got my DUIs, I had to go to jail for a little while, so I had to move back with my mom. I owned a house and everything else, but, you know, that just, you get locked up, you lose that stuff.
Okay. Miss Mason, it's possible that Mr. Massey took your money. It's possible, but you have to prove it.
Well, he did admit it to my mom.
No, that's not what she said at all. She said he kept denying it. Your mother never.
He admitted it.
I was on a
actually.
three-way phone call with
now members.
No,
Listen to me. She testified.
Yes.
I heard her. You have to have proof
Yes.
that he's a thief. Now, it's possible that he took your money. It's also possible that somebody else who was there took your money.
No.
Well, according to you, you had at least 8 people coming in and out of your house. That's what happens.
Yes.
Sometimes money gets taken. And it is possible that Mr. Massey is one of the people who was there, took your money. But there's insufficient proof for me to feel comfortable to label him a thief. Thank you. That's all. The case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her husband came home, caught her in bed with another dude when I was there.
My husband knows what I do. I'm not worried about it.
She was fall down drunk at the end of the night.
I think he's been smoking a little bit too much.
There's real wacky stuff going on.
A little more too many brain cells might be completely dead.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Estes versus French. Step forward, please.
Patricia Estes is suing neighbor Lori French for the cost of a peacock and for damage to her property.
Miss Estes, you claim that Miss French's dogs killed your pet peacock.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated. And Miss French says that there is absolutely no proof that her dogs killed your pet peacock. You live in a relatively rural area. There are lots of animals that are the same. Okay. When did this allegedly happen?
It's March the 3rd of this year.
Was the peacock in an enclosed fence?
Yes. Let me show you, give you a copy of the map and show
Yes.
you on our map.
Or could I have a copy of Miss Estes'
And
map?
Mrs.
please?
French, if she wants to.
I love people who are prepared. Could you give her a copy too so she can follow
okay,
along?
Sure. Thank you. You're welcome.
Good.
I live at the end of a dirt road, and this is my house here. I'm on 5 acres. And there's a fence around my yard, the inner yard. Mrs. French's dogs, they live 2 parcels down. It's not like we're right next to each other. And my neighbor across the street, who I have today as a witness, that saw what happened, and she lived right across from me.
Okay. Got it. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
My name's Corey Kell.
Tell me what you observed on the 3rd of March.
I take my kids to school at around 8:30, 8:45 every morning. Came right back, and when I came back, Mrs. French's dog had her peacock in its mouth.
That is not a true statement that she's just made.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So you brought the dogs inside and then went to work?
Right.
Well, somebody let them out.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Animal control doesn't spend their time going into people's yards stealing their dogs.
And later today,
Did you call your father to ask him to bail you out? It's not an answer.
I didn't.
She didn't ask me. She.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patricia Estes claims her peacock was killed by Lori French's dog.
What kind of dog was it that you saw attack her bird?
I don't know what kind. It's a mixed dog. It looks like a cross between a German Shepherd and a Lab. It's short-haired.
And there's no question in your mind that the dog that you saw, you had seen before?
100% sure. On Thanksgiving of last year, we had our family up and we took a walk and we actually met Miss French, and I met all of her dogs at that time, which was 4 months prior to this. So her dogs are always running up and down our road, getting in the way, trying to get in my yard every time I leave my house.
So the dogs are out. Why do your dogs get out, Miss French?
My dogs are in my yard. I have never seen my dogs out of my yard. She's saying that my dogs are in her yard with her 4 vicious Labradors.
No, that's not what she's saying at all.
She said that she
No,
just
just
saw my
wait.
dogs in her yard.
She said they're running up and down the road.
Well, I beg to differ that.
Okay.
I have some pictures that shows their house with the gate open and their dogs in front of the house
see
and
it, please?
inside their yard.
Can I see it, please? Were your dogs picked up by animal control on December 7th, Miss French? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Where were they picked up?
I do not know. On that morning at 7 a.m., it was about 22 degrees that morning. I had brought my dogs into the home, and I had consequently gone to work about 10 o'clock that morning. When I returned, there was a note on my gate that said my dogs had been picked up by animal
Who
control.
else lives in your house?
I have 2 daughters, well, 3
How old
daughters
are they?
actually. 20-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and my husband.
So there are other adults in the house?
Yes.
So you brought the dogs inside and then went to work?
Right.
Well, somebody let them out.
Well,
Miss French, somebody let them out. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Animal control doesn't spend their time going into people's yards stealing their dogs.
Correct.
Good. So we know that your dogs have gotten out, and it's probably not the first time they've gotten out. Somebody in your household isn't responsible, Miss French. You're responsible for this peacock.
Do I get to?
You weren't home. You don't know what happened. Only she knows. She's
Yes,
an
but I
eyewitness.
do have some, well, her house, according to this, is not even in the correct position.
I don't care whether it's not in the position. I have to rely on what she says. There is no reason for me to disbelieve what she says to me, because after she saw it, she reported it to the plaintiff. So there is no reason for me to disbelieve her. You, on the other hand, were not home. Now, I'm prepared to hear you.
Okay.
I'm prepared to hear you, but I'm telling you that I believe what she says, that she saw a dog that she has identified as your dog, which she has seen numerous times because she has spoken to you. You've introduced her to your dogs, according to her, and I absolutely believe her.
Okay.
So I'm
the woman I
prepared to
met
hear.
was a blonde, so
listen to me. You know, I used to be a blonde too.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go.
I found the neighbor's boxer in my yard on that Saturday, December 9th, chasing my livestock and my horses. I yelled at her. She left the yard. 15 minutes later, the neighbor that's in between our two homes. 15 minutes later, I come back and that dog is still chasing my livestock. I had to physically take her to the neighbor's home and put her back in the yard.
What does that have to do with this incident? This is not a boxer. A boxer is not a husky.
I'm saying that I have livestock that have disappeared. Out of my yard, she's saying that she's... I would like to know even what dog she's accusing of doing this, because I haven't even got that.
Well, maybe she'll tell you. Go ahead.
The one that looks like a German Shepherd lab mix with short hair.
You have a picture of that dog?
It's in the pictures there that you have, Your Honor.
Did you give her the and identify the dog that she's talking about?
This one right there. Yeah, the short-haired one. I also have a report.
This one? Okay. Show it to the defendant. Can I see the report from Animal Control while he's showing that to the defendant?
Yes, she said that I've admitted to Animal Control that my dogs did this. I have not spoken to Animal Control, even after numerous attempts to contact them.
Animal Control says that they returned several times. No one was at home. That's to your house. And each time they were there, they left a notice. According to the Animal Control person, I have been unable to make contact with the suspect dog owner to resolve this matter. In any event, I'm satisfied, Miss French, that it was your dog that was responsible for the dead peacock.
Well, I have excuse me.
Miss French, your dog killed the peacock.
Well, I have incidents documented. Two dogs that look very similar to my dogs that have roamed this neighborhood.
And that's unfortunate for your dogs. Your dogs were just picked out of a lineup. What was the cost of the peacock?
$450 for a male peacock with full tail feathers.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $450. That's all. Got stopped by the police for a traffic infraction. The first time you were stopped, what kind of violation was it, Miss Johnson?
Speeding.
Speeding? And how fast were you going?
I think I was going like 60, I think. 50.
Could you keep your voice up, please?
Like 60 or about 55.
And when she got stopped for speeding, according to the complaint, which is, you know, not disputed by the defendant, she gave her cousin's name. Your cousin?
Yeah. Yes,
she gave her cousin's name because she didn't want to get in trouble. And that worked out just fine, except she never showed up to pay the ticket or anything else. She just let it go. Right?
Yes.
Then she got stopped again. And she figured it worked so well the first time, according to her.
Why not?
She gave her cousin's name again.
This must be her favorite cousin.
And what did you get stopped for the second time, Miss Johnson?
Running a stoplight.
In what jurisdiction do you live?
Los Angeles.
She again gave her cousin's name.
Well, can I explain the first time, you know?
It's not funny. I don't think you're funny.
I
don't think you're funny at all. So let me go further, and then we're going to get the details of this fiasco, because, you know, I like to sort of lay out the situation. So she gives her cousin's name twice. Her cousin finds out about it. How?
I was getting insurance on my car, and the lady notified me that my license was suspended, and I had 2 tickets on my record. And I could not get insurance until the license was cleared up.
So your license, they suspended your license?
Yes, ma'am.
You're lucky they didn't issue a warrant for your arrest.
Yes. And this was, I was driving around. I didn't find out till like 10 months later that my license, it has been suspended 5 months before I even knew about it.
So she and her cousin discuss it, and she decides to do the responsible and goes to court and pleads guilty.
I plead guilty.
Yeah, she pleads guilty.
Okay.
And and they assess her fines. And this is what the case is about. She wants her cousin to pay the fines, all the fines, for the 2 tickets she got.
Your Honor.
And the cousin says, I don't know. We're family. Because I was trying to understand what your defense is. So before I go on, I want to tell you both the following. What you did was a crime, Miss Key. Do you know that?
No.
Well, I'm going to explain that to you. When you go into court and you pled guilty, someone said to you, raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
And then they said to you, what is your name?
Judy Key.
And you told them your name.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, how are you pleading? You said, I'm pleading guilty. And you're pleading guilty because you were guilty.
No, ma'am.
Well, that's what you were doing. When you enter a plea of guilty, what you're doing is you are perpetrating a fraud on the court. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a crime. You can't do that. You can't do that. And when you gave her name, that is a crime. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Is this the first time somebody told you it was a crime?
No, it's not.
When for the first time did somebody tell you it was a crime, Miss Johnson?
The second time after I did it.
You mean you didn't know the first time?
Well, the first time I was intoxicated and I just said the first thing came to my mind.
So not only were you speeding, you were drunk and speeding.
It was my birthday. But I mean, I was turning 21. So I was intoxicated that day.
Judge, the only reason why I pled guilty, she agreed to pay me. So we didn't have to go through all these court processes. She said, I'll pay you for it, don't worry about it. Under that, I said, okay. Once I got that money, I told her, this is how much it costs, you owe me this, and it has to be done by August 8th. That was our court date. I didn't get any money but $50 from her.
Just a second. You have a driver's license?
Yes, I do.
Go get it.
Your Honor,
Go get your driver's license.
I didn't bring it with me today.
Go get your pocketbook. Get it and bring it in. Fast.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind?
Well, she told me she was going to do community service
She's
for
not
it.
doing community service for you. Why should she do community service for you? What are you doing?
And later today,
Don't bother me with nonsense. You hear about furniture. Well, don't throw in the kitchen sink to a lawsuit.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Duanique Key says her cousin, Datiana Johnson, used her identity during 2 traffic stops. Datiana claims on the first occasion, she was drunk.
Empty your pocketbook. Is that your driver's license?
My California ID.
I'll take it. Now empty your pocketbook. I want the driver's license.
I don't have the driver's license here.
Then empty your pocketbook.
You want me to take everything out of my purse?
I want you to give me your driver's license.
I didn't bring it. I didn't drive today.
Unless this court receives your driver's license, madam, within 3 days, it is my intention to inform the police department in Los Angeles to confiscate your driver's license. Do we understand each other? Do we understand each other?
Yes. Can I ask why, though? I mean, this is
because you perpetrated a fraud on the court. Her driver's license was suspended when yours should have been suspended. Don't you get that?
And I had a failure to appear.
Don't you get that? Your driver's license should have been suspended. You were driving, according to you, drunk. You got a speeding ticket. You gave somebody else's name. The second time, you did the same thing. You ran a red light and gave somebody else's name. And you still have a driver's license. Your driver's license should have been suspended. And if I don't get your driver's license so that you don't have it,
It is my intention to inform the police department in Los Angeles, which I may do anyway. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
This belongs to me. Now, you have 30 seconds to tell me why you don't owe those fines.
Because I was under the impression that she did community service.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind?
Well, she told me she was going to do community service.
She's not doing community service for you. Why should she do community service for you? What are you doing?
She was doing it for herself.
I don't understand what you mean she was doing it for herself.
Meaning because that's my name.
I don't understand what you mean she was doing it for herself.
Because she called me and told me that the judge ordered her to do community service. So when she told me that, I thought it was taken care of.
What do you do for a living?
Right now, I'm not employed.
How do you support yourself?
I have ways.
How do you support yourself?
My daughter's father.
Supports you?
Child support, basically.
Who do you live with?
My mother.
Why don't you work?
I was employed. I just recently stopped.
Why?
I was working through an agency, and they're looking for another job for me.
What kind of car do you drive?
A Cadillac.
I asked you a question. An answer I want.
A Cadillac.
What year?
98.
In whose name is the car?
It's in my name.
Where is it registered?
In Los Angeles.
Yes.
She just got that car, so she had plenty of time to pay me back. This car is brand new. Paid cash.
You must get a lot of child. In any event, Ms. Key, to whom do you owe the fines?
The Los Angeles District Court from Traffic Division, I believe.
And how much is owed to them?
Roughly $1,700. One ticket was $1,189, and the second ticket was $565.
Now, Ms. Key.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't get any award for brains, because what you did was so wrong. And I understand that you may feel as if, well, it's family and you didn't want her to get into trouble.
Yes, ma'am.
But what you did was against the law. You do understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you deserve to have a consequence. I assume that you did already have a consequence.
I had enough.
You had enough?
Yes.
I believe that that's probably true. She hasn't had any yet, but believe me, she's going to have plenty, because she's not going to have a license to drive around in this new Cadillac that's in her name. Because I had this. And the police department is going to be notified of her scam. You get it? Perfect. $1,754, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just think this is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm happy with the decision.
I know I did something wrong, but, you know...
This is on my record.
I gave her $50.
$50? Come on.
Some people don't get nothing.
The ticket's, what, $1,700? $50 couldn't make or break my tickets.
Yeah, I just have to get over it now.
I hope that she doesn't do it again.
She got her ruling, and now leave me alone.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Jones. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Nicole Johnson is suing her neighbor, 23-year-old Sally Jones, for the cost to fix her car. Nicole claims Sally's son, 5-year-old Darian, scratched her paint job with rocks.
Ms. Johnson, your complaint is that Miss Jones's son, that would be this little tyke over here, vandalized your car with some sort of an implement. You want her to pay for the damage. Miss Jones says, well, she's not sure if her son did it, and if he did it, he had an accomplice of similar age, and why aren't you suing the accomplice too? That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Jones, let me ask you this question. If you believe that your son was responsible for part of the damage, you would acknowledge that and would be prepared to pay for part of the damage. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
What proof do you have that Miss Jones's son, because you didn't see it, vandalized your car?
I have a witness who says she saw him do it.
Okay. When did this happen?
July 11th at approximately 7:30, 8 a.m.
And the witness that you had would be this little girl?
Mm-hmm.
And she's 5?
Yes.
Whose child is she?
One of our other neighbors. Her name's Angela Michaela.
Michaela, would you like to come up and talk to me?
Okay. You all right? Okay.
Hi, Michaela. Do you know who I am? You don't know? Do you know why you're here?
And you don't know why you're here. Who did you come with today? Oh, I see this is going to be interesting. Do you know this little boy? Is he a friend of yours? Do you know Miss Jones? Is she a neighbor of yours? Can you talk? Can you tell me your full name? Let me hear.
Michaela.
And what's your last name, Michaela?
Michaela and Timon.
Do you want to talk to me about what happened with Miss Johnson's car? You want to tell me what happened? Okay, tell me what happened.
He spit on the car.
He spit on the car? Did you see him do that? Did you see him do anything else to the car, Michaela? What else did you see him do?
He scratched it.
What did he scratch it with?
A rock.
Did you see him with the rock in his hand? Did you have a rock in your hand? Was anybody else with him when he had the rock in his hand?
No.
But you're sure you saw him scratch the car with a rock? After you saw him scratch the car, Michaela, did you go and tell anybody? Who did you tell?
His parents.
His parents? Oh, did you tell them right away? Okay. You can go and sit down now. Thank you. So Michaela came and told you that about that?
No, ma'am.
She never came and told you about it?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you?
I called. I assume that from the way the marks are, they're huge, just circles, scribbles, they're all at very low positions. I assumed it was a child, and I assumed that if I asked enough children, one of them would tell on the other. So I called her parents and I said, you know, later on today when the kids are home, please ask them if they saw anyone playing around Miss Nikki's car. And in the background, I could hear her say, I did, I saw Darian. And her mom said, well, will you do me a favor? Will you go outside and on Mommy's car, will you touch the spots that you saw him touching on Miss Nikki's car? And she said, okay, she's touching the hood, the driver's side door, and the passenger door on the same side as the driver's side. And she said, is that, you know, is that right? And I said, yeah, that's exactly where the damage is.
Tell me your name.
Darian.
Darian, I want you to come up here and sit up here and talk to me. Trouble, a handful.
Yes, thank you. I do know that.
A handful.
Okay. Tell me, Judge, okay?
Me and Michaela did it.
You and Michaela both did it? Well, tell me how that happened, Darian.
Me and Michaela had rocks.
Well, how many rocks did you have in your hand?
One.
And where did you get the rock from?
Off the ground.
And what about Michaela? Did she have a rock too?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to scratch Miss Johnson's car?
Oh, no.
Well, does your mom have a car?
Yeah, gray.
Hmm?
Gray.
She has a gray car. Darian, if you saw children scratching your mother's car, would you be angry with them? Because that's not the right thing to do, right? And your mommy would be very upset that somebody scratched her car, wouldn't she? She would be sad. Are you ever going to do that again? Because you know you can get into trouble for doing that to other people's property, right? How many marks did you make on the car? And how many marks did Michaela make on the car? So you made more marks than Michaela. Did Michaela make bigger marks than you or littler marks than you? She made smaller marks than you. Show me with your hands how big were the marks that you made on the car. Big ones. And she made little ones. Is that right? She made little ones, and show me your size. The ones you made were bigger ones. Now, when your mom asked you about Miss Johnson's car, did you tell her the truth right away?
My dad.
You told your dad the truth right away? And what did you tell him?
I scratched it.
And when did you tell your mom and your dad that Michaela was there too?
I didn't tell him. I only told my dad.
When did you tell your dad that Michaela was there too? Did you tell him right away, or did you tell him later?
Right away.
Go and step down. I have a feeling you did a little more damage than Michaela did, but my sense is that Michaela was there. Made a few little marks. Miss Johnson, I know that you don't like to believe it, but cute little Michaela scratched your car. Didn't do as much damage as this little guy did. And in his own 5-year-old way, he really told me the truth about that, because I don't know how many scratches were on the car, but clearly he said he did more than she did. And when I asked him, you saw, How big were her scratches? He said, well, they were really teeny. Mine were bigger. Well, one gets the sense that at least he's telling the truth, that there was some co-participation.
And she said that she helped him wipe them off with the spit so that he wouldn't get into trouble. That's what she told her mom.
Oh, okay.
She said, I helped, he spit all over the car and I helped him rub them off, but they weren't coming off.
Okay. So you get it. Okay. So I think that Michaela's folks have to be responsible for some of the damage to the car.
I also have rental car receipts because they said it's going to take 4 to 5 days. So I have $182.04 because they won't do it on the weekend, not all of it, and I work about 45 minutes from home.
Okay.
So I have a rental car receipt for $182.04.
$422. That's half. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $422. Thank you.
Thank you.
Smart, but a handful, Miss Jones.
Thank you.
All parties in the matter, Faye versus Malabar. Step forward, please.
19-year-old Megan Faye is suing her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old waiter Kevin Malabar, for loans to pay rent and to buy a new cell phone. Kevin claims Megan is upset that he's moved on.
Miss Faye, it is your claim that you made 2 small loans to the defendant while you were dating.
Yes.
Mr. Malabar says that he doesn't record, that he doesn't need your money. He has no knowledge of any loans or financial gifts that you made to him. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. You both go to school?
Yes.
When did you make the first loan?
It was August 7th.
2006?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
He said that his dad couldn't pay for his rent because his dad was getting a new job. So he wanted me to lend him the money until his dad could pay me with the new job, and that was $420.
What was the money for?
The rent money.
Where did you get the money from?
My savings account.
You have proof of that from me?
Yeah, I have the statements right here.
Can I see it, please?
I had to take 2 up. Okay.
You had to take 2 out because?
I was doing the ATM, so I didn't think I would be able to take $420 out at once, so I split it up.
Okay. Were you working?
Yes.
What kind of work were you doing?
I work at JCPenney's.
Full-time?
Part-time. I work between 15 and 30 hours while going to school.
But what about you, sir?
I work full-time at a restaurant as a server.
What was the next loan that you made to him?
I've been bugging him about a cell phone, so he told me that he wanted to get one, so his dad said he couldn't do it, so I went with him to open it, and...
What do you mean you were bugging him about a cell phone?
He didn't have a cell phone, so I'd have to call his friends, and he said that he would get one, and his dad would pay for it, but his dad couldn't do it at that time, so I went with him and opened one for him.
Well, he was working. Why didn't he buy it?
He just started, and I made him get that job. He didn't want to work. And
how much was the cell phone?
It was $200.
Okay, and you don't remember any of this, sir?
No, my father would pay cash for my rent. My parents are divorced, and they both would pay half of the rent.
So you have no information whatsoever about this $420 amount of money?
No. And what was the date she said she took that money out?
August 7th.
Our rent was due the 20th of every month.
Yes.
So I don't know why there would be the 7th of the month that she would be taking out money for my rent.
I don't know. That's
He
what
was
says.
going to visit his friend where he was living, and he needed it that day because he wouldn't get to it before the due date. That's what he told me. I was all just going on what he was telling me, and I didn't want him to lose his apartment, so I gave him the money.
Okay. Now, Miss Faye, you claim that after he refused to pay you back, because you had some disagreement about his going out with somebody else, you contacted his father.
Yes.
And how did you contact him?
I had a cell phone because Kevin would use my phone to call his father and his mother. So I called his dad hoping he would be able to help me out.
And did you speak with him?
Yes.
And what did he say to you?
He said that he couldn't help me, that he talked to Kevin, and Kevin wanted to do this on his own because he was 20, and that if nothing happens, he told me that I should do small claims court.
That's what his father told you?
Yes.
What's
He
your
didn't
father's
want to help me
telephone
out.
number, sir?
5763.
Is that his work number?
No, that's his cell phone.
Good. Did you ever meet him, by the way?
Yes. I would go to his house with Kevin. I would have to drive him because
Good.
he didn't have a car.
I'm going to give your dad a call.
Okay.
How's that?
That's fine.
Great. This is Judge Judy Scheindlin. How are you? Mr. I have a couple of questions for you. Do you have a moment for me, sir? Great, great. Do you remember sometime several months ago receiving a phone call from Miss Fay, your son's former girlfriend, Megan Fay? She discussed with you some money that she said your son had borrowed from her. Did she tell you how much he had borrowed? Did you agree to pay her that money? Kevin, about it? And what happened? Okay. Did you tell Miss Fay that if he owed her money, that she should sue him? I absolutely agree with you, sir. You've met this young lady before, is that right? Ever had any difficulty with her before? Seemed like a nice young lady? Very good. Thanks very much. I appreciate your assistance. Bye-bye now.
He's sad.
There are always ways to figure out who's telling the truth, Mr. Malabar. I can't get it from one source, I get it from another. Don't you feel foolish? 10 million people are going to know you're a liar.
I'm not lying here.
Yes, you are.
What did he say?
That's for me to know and for you to think about. But there's no question in my mind you're a liar. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $620. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may
Explain it to Bert, or would you like me to do it?
The nature of the business?
Yes.
Essentially, I have my friend Ronald here who has been in the business for 12 years, and he...
Ronald doesn't have to explain it.
Okay.
I'm going to, in stick terms, explain it to Bert. You tell me if I'm wrong.
All right.
Simple. You have this vitamin bottle, because that's what they sell, vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronald, that's this guy over here, he's been in the business 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
He sometimes sells these vitamins. But what he does mostly is get other people under him who sell vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And depending upon at what level they buy in, they could buy in with $500 or $1,000 or $2,000, they get product. He brings him in. Mr. Sincere over here buys $5,000 worth of product. He gets a piece of that.
Sure.
So it's like slavery, you know. What you do is he brings in, what's your first name?
Damien.
He brings in a lot of Damiens. Damien 1, Damien 2, Damien 3, Damien 4. And whatever Damien orders from the business, not sells, but orders from the business, Ronald gets a piece of.
Multi-level marketing.
Correct. Now, so then it inures to Damien 1 through 5. They say, listen, we want to be Ronald too.
Of course.
So we're going to see if we can get, what's your name? Amy. A whole bunch of Amy's under us to buy as much product as he can, because they get a piece of whatever Amy buys.
Of course. And
And
him
they
too.
also, and so does Ronald.
That's right.
Because Ronald gets a smaller piece of Amy, but he still gets a piece of Amy. And then, what's your name?
Davey.
What's your name?
Cody.
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 Amy then says, I want to get a whole bunch of Codys because that's the way I'm going to make my money. And he's going to get a little piece of Cody, and he's going to get a smaller piece of Cody, but everybody's going to get a piece of Cody. That's the way the game works.
Oh, yeah.
Got it?
That's right.
Pretty much. Now, you also reach certain levels in this business, because if you're a master, or if you're a guru, or if you're a titan, or if you're an Ogatunji, whatever it is, what happens is they give you perks.
Oh, yeah.
Do you get perks in your business, like a car?
If you get high enough, you do. Yeah, I'm not there
You think
yet.
this is a scheme that I haven't been through a couple of times in my life?
No, I didn't say that.
All right, I got it. So if you get up really high, if you get to be a Grandmaster Ungatunji, they give you a BMW.
Of course.
Or they give you a Mercedes. So there are advantages
for Ronald to get a whole bunch of Damians, and for Damians to get a whole bunch of Amy's, and for Amy's to get a whole bunch of Cody's, because in addition to getting the money, you also get the perks. That's the drill. Now, Damien over here got Amy involved in the business, and she bought inventory. How much worth, sir?
It was worth $5,000.
What are you asking him for? The questions are going to get harder.
Oh my. I think it was worth about $5,000, and he actually put up $3,300.
Okay, but you put up the money for her.
Yes, I did.
On your credit card.
Yes, I did.
Because you were hoping that she was going to do well in the business, and she wasn't such a good salesperson. And she couldn't find a Cody if she killed herself. She couldn't find a Cody. So you ended up getting stiffed for your money.
Correct.
And she sent back some of her product.
Right, some of it.
But you want, because you're stuck with the bill now, Mr. Ogatunji yet.
Right.
There isn't any such thing as a
there may be,
Grandmaster
I'm not that high up.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of made that up because it sounded funny. So you want her to pay you the money. Miss Brown says you gave her all kinds of sales pitch. You told her she was going to make a fortune, that there were Codys floating around under every rock, that she was going to be able to sell these vitamins, that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. And she couldn't do it because she was no salesperson. And since you didn't help her, she sent back the product that she hadn't used. If you have the bill, that's your problem. Okay, we have certain things that we understand. We understand that he bought in for $3,300 and put it on his credit card. That is an agreed state of fact. It is also agreed that you agreed to pay him back that money for starting you in this business. This was going to be your business. You were going to be a grand female Ugatunja. Didn't work out. Wasn't your thing. So what did you do?
I asked for his help several times.
How did you do that?
Either phone conversations or via email.
And what did he say to you?
Usually it was, yeah, we need to get together and talk about this, which never happened. And after so many attempts, I just sent all the product back.
And what did he say?
He was fine with it as far as I knew. I told him I was going to do it, and he said he understood.
So, when did he decide to sue you?
I just was served about 2 weeks ago.
When was this that you sent back the product?
Believe it was May or June of 2006.
So why did you wait to sue her, sir? Is not an answer.
Okay. I wanted to work with Amy to give her an opportunity to pay back the remaining balance.
Well, had you asked her for it?
Of course.
How many times did you ask her for the balance?
Numerous. Both on the phone, and then when she started not returning my phone calls, our relationship was degraded to emailing. And I have in emails that she said she would indeed pay back the remaining balance.
Can I see it, please?
May I say something else, Your Honor?
Yes.
I absolutely did make every attempt to not only talk to Amy on the phone, but to get together with her, to involve her in opportunity meetings. Ronald also met her in Anaheim for a meeting. I feel like we put forth a very fair and aggressive effort to assist her with this.
It is clear to me that over the course of several months, you agreed to pay him.
And I agreed to make payments.
So why didn't you?
Because at the time I had lost my job, I was laid off, and I just bought my condo. And
you just bought your condo?
I just bought a condo, and then I was laid off, and then I was trying to get caught up with my other bills, which were a priority.
Well, then you acknowledged this debt to him.
A portion of it.
Well, which portion of it, madam?
I agreed to, okay, he had agreed to help me with.
Listen, we're beyond that. We had agreed to help you. Now I have emails where you clearly acknowledge the debt, which belies what you told me, that he breached his contract to help you, which is why you don't have to pay him. So now we know that you agreed to pay him. So I'm asking you why. Is it because you bought a condo?
No, the condo was prior to even meeting him.
Well, so what does that have to do with paying him back?
Well, no, I had been laid off, and that's when I met him, and he convinced me to do this so that I can make money. Then
it didn't work out, and you returned the product, and you still said, I'm going to pay you. So what stopped you?
Well, I didn't agree with the amounts that he was saying I owed him.
Well, how much do you say you owe him? That's where I started 5 minutes ago.
Okay. I believe I owe him maybe $1,000 just based on the portions of it that I was able to sell.
Well, how much did you sell?
Maybe a couple $100 worth to just friends.
Where are your records?
There's no record. I mean, you sell the container to people for cash.
What do you mean, you sell it for cash and then you don't report it to anybody? Not even the government? How do you expect to pay your taxes?
Well, I don't know. This to help me with.
He's not supposed to help you with that. This is your business.
Well, this is what he promised to help me with. I have the emails where he stated he promised to help me as
How
well.
much product? $3,300. How much product did she send back?
She returned $699.30, which was credited to my credit card, and she gave me a personal check for $300.
And you cashed it?
Of course.
Good.
Also, Your Honor, originally I gave Amy a can, 2 cans of product, which I said you can pay me back for. Just give me the same cans once you get your order, and she never did, so I had added that in as well.
You're going to have to live with that, sir, Damien.
Okay.
So she returned $700 worth of product, bringing it down to $2,600, and she gave you $300, leaving a grand total of $2,300.
And they actually prorated that, that they don't refund you the full amount. So they only give you, I think, 80 to 90% back.
And
that's what was credited to his credit card.
Well, that's all right. He has to be made whole. You're a big girl. How old are you?
36.
What?
36.
36. 36 years old. You make a decision. It doesn't work out. You have to take care of the consequences. These are slick guys. This is the way they make a living. They find people who are young, looking to start a new life, start a new business, not worked out in other fields, and they say, listen, you can make a lot of money. And some people make a lot of money. Ronald makes a good living, right? Damien, I don't know. Do you make a good living?
I'm working on it.
Well, how much did you earn last year?
With Just Relive?
Yes.
I'd have to look at my tax return.
Let's try to give me a round ballpark figure, Damien.
I'm going to say probably around $8,000.
8. You make a lot more. You've been there 12 years.
Yeah.
How long have you been in, Damien?
About 3 years.
Oh, when you're there 12 years, you're going to have that Mercedes you want.
I hope so.
What kind of car do you drive, Ronald?
I drove a BMW.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
There are always ways to figure out who's telling the truth, Mr. Malabar. I can't get it from one source, I get it from another. Don't you feel foolish? 10 million people are going to...
Real people, Judge Judy. Damien Cecere says he helped friend Amy Brown with a loan to get started in a vitamin-selling business. Damien claims Amy has yet to pay him back.
Now...
Can I say something?
Sure.
The business has a 1-year money-back guarantee. So at any point, she could have returned the product and got 90% of her money back. The business isn't designed for people to fail. If they don't want to do it, if they get a new job, that's okay. So if there was ever a discrepancy, she could have returned all the product and Damien would have got reimbursed. So.
But she didn't.
Right.
She's got to pay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Amy's has a very dynamic personality. She knows a lot of people. That's why I thought she'd be successful.
He was a friend, and I was in a bad position and needed the money.
I feel bad because I like Amy, and I wish her good luck on whatever she decides to do.
I believe there's a few people that can make it, and the rest just kind of fall by the wayside.
It's unfortunate. I guess it's part of life. We've moved on. No hard feelings against Amy.
Claim that the accident was caused when your daughter reached over and grabbed the steering wheel because there was some wild turkeys in the road.
Yes.
And your car was wrecked.
Yes.
And you think she's responsible?
Yes.
Not likely.
Well, Your Honor, I believe that I would have never wrecked my vehicle if she would have pulled the steering wheel out of my control and drove right into a tree.
She never would have had the opportunity had you not been out drinking with your daughter.
I had a firm grip on the steering wheel.
She never would have had the opportunity to grab your steering wheel if you hadn't been out drinking with your daughter. Where did you go drinking that night?
We went to Velva.
What's Velva?
Velva is a city approximately 15 to 20 minutes away from Sawyer.
Who else went out drinking that night?
It was just us two, ma'am.
Is this the first time you went out drinking with your mother?
No, ma'am.
What time did you start drinking?
It was approximately around 9 p.m.
So it was an evening of drinking?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see any turkeys in the road?
No, ma'am.
She said they were chickens.
Okay, whether they were turkeys, chickens, mongoose, or pelicans.
I'm sorry.
If you hadn't been drinking that night, the accident wouldn't have happened.
I'm an experienced driver.
Even when you're drinking?
And I haven't had that much to drink that night.
I am disinclined to find your daughter responsible for an accident that happened while you were driving after you had spent a night drinking. So if your truck was wrecked, and if you didn't have insurance on it, Go out and buy a new one.
I did.
However, that's what your daughter says that you did. And she has a counterclaim that I'm really more interested in.
Your Honor.
And her counterclaim is that after this happened, you asked her to cash a check for you, and she did. You told her that the check was from some work that you did online. She cashed the check for you for $2,000. With the $2,000, you went and bought another vehicle. But it turns out that the $2,000 check was a scam. And her bank account was then overdrawn, and the bank went and claimed the money because it was a bad check. She wants you to pay her back that money. Now, where did you get this check from?
It was from Interglobal Lotto. I have the letter that I received.
Can I see the letter, please? Now, when was the car accident with the alleged turkeys?
In
what
about
month?
April, the middle part of April of 2006.
And you got this letter from Interglobal Lotto 2006, after the turkeys.
Yes. And, Your Honor, I would have never crashed my van.
I don't want to hear any more about your van.
If she would have been back.
I don't want to hear any more about your van. You wouldn't have crashed your van if you hadn't gone out drinking with your daughter.
If I would have been by myself, I would have never crashed.
It's not happening, madam. Move on with it. So after you got this bogus letter, what did you do?
I got a hold of Crystal, and I asked her if she could take me to our bank, because we both banked at the same bank.
For what?
To cash the check. That was attached with that letter.
Your Honor, I do have a copy of the check.
Can I see it, please?
And
Yes,
we went there, and they said that I no longer had an account there, so Crystal said that I'll cash it on my account because I have an open account, and the bank teller had her sign it after I had signed it.
Good, and she cashed this bogus check for you that any 4-year-old could tell from the letter itself was a bogus letter. The only thing it didn't say that it came from some third world country, which they usually do.
Your Honor.
Just say nothing. She cashed the check and she gave you the
money after I gave her $250 for.
She gave you the money?
Yes.
And what did you do with the money?
I paid on some bills and I bought myself a vehicle.
Fine. So you spent the money on yourself, on your bills, which you would have to pay anyway, and a car for you, and it turned out to be a bad check. Who do you think should be responsible for paying for your bills and your car? Her or you?
Well, she never paid anything for it. And the bank, it was investigated by a detective, and he investigated the case because the bank had filed a
Listen to my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if this letter that any idiot would know is a fake,
yes,
came with a check for $2,000, and if they said, we want you to cash this check and then send us back $2,000, and we're going to send you $120,000.
That's not what it says on the letter, though.
I know that. Put on your listening ears. If it had said that,
right.
If is the word, and she cashed the check for $2,000, and you sent it back to Interglobal Lotto, and it turned out to be a bad check, and you were just waiting for your $120,000 to come, I would say, well, maybe you both got skunked. She was dumb enough to cash the check, and you were dumb enough to believe this windfall. But that's not what happened.
Right.
You paid your own bills, bills that you would have to pay anyway. You bought yourself things. You had the advantage of the money. So between you and your daughter, who should have to pay it back? You, listen to me, you who got the benefit of the money, or your daughter, who maybe got the benefit of $250.
Well, Your Honor, it says on there, though, that that's just to pay the taxes on the $120,000. So I figured I'd spend the $1,900 and then wait until I got my $120,000 and then I'd take care of the taxes.
Do you have a lot of children?
5.
Are you not listening to what I said?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Then try answering my question.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who should pay the money back? Is that a hard question?
No.
Is that a hard question?
Real people. Judge Judy. Doreen Knutson says her daughter, Crystal Kuntz, wrecked her car while trying to avoid turkeys crossing the road.
You got the benefit of the money. You spent it on yourself. Right. She didn't. Between you, who got the benefit of the money, and your daughter, who did not get the benefit of the money, who should pay the money back? Is that a hard question?
No.
Is that a hard question? I've repeated it now 3 times. 3 times. My 4-year-old grandchild could give me an answer to that question, madam.
Well, actually, I think the bank should go after the company who issued the check, because it's like writing a bad check. They wrote a bad check and they won't honor it. The bank cashed the
I would
check.
like you, Miss Knutson, to make me a promise. I want you to raise your right hand, please. I will never
go
into global finance.
Go into global finance.
Because I do not have the capacity.
No, I don't want to say that.
Yeah,
but...
well, you don't. Did your mother give you $250? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes, ma'am. The reason why she had given that back to me, she was on my savings account at my bank. There was an issue previously, which I do not have the information on, but I have a little sister where I went to my bank one day, my account was overdrawn, and my little sister that's only 13 apparently had a checking account, and there was a check that was deposited into the account that was overdrawn. Come to find out, my little sister that was 13 never had an account. I had to end up paying because I only had $70 in there at the time, and so she felt to pay me that back out of the check that she had received.
Was there a problem with your 13-year-old daughter's account?
No.
No, all right.
She never had an account.
All right.
That was her.
Your claim against your daughter for causing the wreck of your car is dismissed. I am awarding her $2,000 on her counterclaim. You spent the money, you enjoyed the money, you paid your bills, you have to reimburse the bank. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's too bad that my mother had to sue me.
It breaks my heart.
I think she just wanted the money for a new vehicle.
I thought, you know, maybe she could help me out.
There were no turkeys on the road.
It happened, like I said, it happened.
Maybe not be together.
Definitely no going out driving anymore.
I just hope I can have my mom back and we can be the same as...
Party or a bar together, you had too much to drink and you asked him to drive your car home.
Correct.
He did. According to you, he probably fell asleep at the wheel, although you were sleeping. You really didn't know what happened. There was a terrible accident. Your car was severely damaged or totaled, and you were injured. Mm-hmm. You want the defendant to pay for your medical bills.
Half.
Half your medical bills. He did, in fact, give you some money towards the deductible for your car. Is that right?
He gave me half, $250. The deductible is $500.
How much money did you give her towards the deductible?
$1,000. She said
Show
it
me.
was $1,000.
That's not true.
Show me.
Where you going?
Where on these money orders does it indicate who these payments were made to?
I don't know if it says that on there or not.
It doesn't.
It's
Your
just a
Honor, I
receipt.
never received a moneygram. His mother came to my work and gave me $250 in cash.
Yeah, I believe you. I do. I believe you. Who made these circles around here, sir? What word didn't you understand?
The circles
Who made
on
the
that?
circles around?
My mom did that. She highlighted
What?
it. My mom highlighted that.
Who made a circle in black around the dates?
I guess my mom did. She circled it.
You guess? What do you mean you guess?
I got those from my mom. She told me to hold on to them so that I have proof.
You have no proof.
Okay.
I believe you. That his mother gave you $250, which was half of the deductible for the car?
Correct.
Is that what you agreed to with regard to the deductible for the
No,
car?
I asked for the full $500, but all I could get was $250.
Okay. The defendant says that your insurance, your medical insurance, should have covered your medical bills.
Correct.
So let's talk about it. What date was the accident, Mr. Tomasic?
I think it was July 31st,
July 30th.
30th.
Tell me about the evening.
Me and Leslie went to a strip club in Indianapolis, and
Leslie
Christopher.
and
I went to a strip club in Indianapolis, and I had my friend Zach meet us up there. He was going to take me home, but then Leslie asked me to drive her to my house, so he followed us, and I'm driving down the interstate. The next thing I know, she distracted me, and we're spinning out of control into a ditch. The cops came and towed the car, and she went to the hospital.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Well, you don't know that. You don't know what happened because you were drunk. And according to you, fell asleep, right?
Correct.
So you don't know what happened. You didn't fall asleep, Mr. Tomasic?
No.
Had you had anything to drink that night?
No.
Nothing.
Oh, that's why I was driving. I mean,
I just asked you nothing. No alcohol at all.
That's not true.
What were the extent of your injuries?
I had a concussion and bruising.
Can I see the medical reports, please?
It on there states why my insurance denied all my medical bills too.
Well,
the other reason why...
First of all, your insurance carrier is... What's the name of the company?
Credit Union, which is my employer.
Yes.
They're a self-employed company.
Well, I want to tell you something. I would sue them.
I've actually...
I would sue them because they have no right to disclaim your coverage. I'm going to tell you why in a moment. You have a witness, by the way?
Correct.
I understand from your complaint you have a witness. And your witness is prepared to testify as to the defendant's condition? Is that right? On the day of the incident?
He's here to testify that he falsified his statement in the police report.
Step up, please. What statement in the police report?
It stated that the reason why he lost control of the vehicle was because I leaned over and began touching him. And I have a statement that he signed that he did fall asleep at the wheel.
Can I see that, please? Has your witness been sworn?
Yes, Judge.
Sir, would you tell me your name?
Lamont Williams.
You are a police officer, sir?
Ma'am.
Where?
Indianapolis.
Did you respond to this accident on the 30th of July?
I was not the responding officer. I received a phone call from Miss Leslie personally.
When?
Approximately 11:30 or so.
In the evening?
Yes.
From where?
I was on duty at work. She called me on my personal cell phone.
How do you know each other?
We've been friends for 3 years or so.
Where was she calling you from?
From the accident scene.
And what did she say when she called you?
I've been in an accident and I need your help.
And what did you say?
I'll be right there. Asked where she was, and then I...
So you were not there in your official capacity?
No.
What happened when you arrived at the scene?
I arrived at the scene. There was a truck driver there, off-duty officer, and Ms. Leslie was being loaded into an ambulance.
And where was the defendant?
He was standing on the side of the road.
Did you have a conversation with him?
I did. I spoke with him. I asked, was he okay? He said yes. Asked him what happened. He originally told me that he had fallen asleep at the wheel.
Is that what he said? I fell asleep at the wheel?
Yes.
That's not what I said.
Shortly after that, he changed and said that we were messing around. That's why we crashed.
But his first statement to you was that he fell asleep at the wheel?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Officer Williams. Okay. Now, let's get to the deductible. Your deductible was $500?
Correct.
Okay, and he gave you $250?
Correct.
You owe her $250 for the deductible, Mr. Tomasic. That's so far. Now I'm going to read over the rest of this paperwork from the insurance company, because I hate to think that this insurance company wants to be exposed on national television. And I'm going to read the clause in the contract, which they claim limits their liability. They say that charges incurred, medical charges incurred, resulting from an illness or injury incurred while under the influence of alcohol, illegal drugs, etc. And your blood alcohol level, clearly, at the time you went to the hospital, was that high.
Was over, correct.
But the fact that you were drunk had absolutely nothing to do with your injury.
Correct.
Absolutely nothing, unless they're saying because you were drunk and chose to have a designated driver so that you wouldn't have an accident,
right,
was the cause of your injury.
Correct.
That's ludicrous. So the insurance company is trying to beg off their legitimate responsibility, what you pay for. So I would suggest to the credit union that if they choose not to pay this claim, they do so in all probability at their own peril, because they are required by law to pay this claim. Your injuries had absolutely nothing to do with your blood alcohol level.
Correct. And I actually filed an appeal with that company.
And
I have the letter and the denial of my appeal. That's the only thing that they said I could do was write an appeal.
I'd like to see that. It's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. That's why insurance companies have such a bad name.
That's my appeal letter, and then you also have the denial letter already up there. And in there I even put an example of if I was to call a cab and got in an accident, I'm still responsible.
Absolutely right.
Right.
Absolutely right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now the company has been humiliated, and I hope that they certainly have, because they were absolutely 100% wrong in denying this claim.
And later today...
Does he live with you?
He did.
Until when?
January 11th on her release from prison.
Sounds like a lovely family.
Leslie, former friend Christopher Tomasic, owes for medical bills resulting from a car wreck. Christopher says Leslie is partly to blame for the accident.
Now, you did the right thing by having somebody else drive you home, and they are doing clearly the absolute wrong thing by denying you coverage because they're trying to save their money. They take your money to pay your premiums and then look for any possible loophole to avoid their responsibility to pay your medical expenses. So, Mr. Tomasic, this is what you have to do, sir. Listen to me very carefully. Now that the company has been humiliated, and I hope that they certainly have because they were absolutely 100% wrong in denying this claim, you are going to pay her claim, and your rights are now subrogate. You can sue them. I'm not going to use fancy. You can sue the company if you want to.
I thought that my insurance would take over if hers didn't cover it, but...
But they wouldn't. Whatever. It wasn't her fault. It was your fault. So she can't be out of pocket. But I think that she has to go further. Someone has to go further with the insurance company. And because it was your fault, it has to be you. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So I'm awarding you, you had money that you are out of pocket on your claims was clearly far in excess of my jurisdiction. So I'm awarding you the $5,000 you are requesting under your claim. Mr. Tomasic, I certainly advise you, sir, to seek relief, if you wish, because it's going to cost you money to sue them. But you should. That's all. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm just glad it's all over. I got my money that I owed. It's not my fault that the car was wrecked.
I couldn't afford to pay for it.
I knew he didn't have the money to pay for it.
We were just spinning out of control.
I fell asleep, woke up, and all I see is trees spinning around me.
Into a ditch.
I got out of the car and asked him what happened. He said he fell asleep.
We were driving down the road and...
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Edwards. Step forward.
Real estate agent Chavez Smith is suing her former friend and client, Erica Edwards, for a loan to pay her mortgage payments.
All right, well, this is one of those little complicated cases that Bert and I are going to try to figure out together. Miss Smith, you and Miss Edwards were friends. By the way, are you a licensed realtor?
Yes, I am.
In what state?
California.
According to your complaint, Miss Edwards wanted to sell her home.
Yes.
And you had initially found a buyer, but that deal fell through.
Yes, ma'am.
So you and Miss Edwards entered into this rather convoluted arrangement.
Yes.
Whereby you would make the mortgage payments on her home.
Yes.
While you were trying to find a purchaser.
Yes.
You might also rent the house while you were looking for a purchaser.
Yes.
And Miss Edwards would be out from under the problem of the mortgage, and she could go and live elsewhere. So far, is that about right?
Yes.
Yes.
She did move out of the house, and it is your claim that you made, I believe, 4 mortgage payments for her.
Yes.
She owes you that money.
Yes.
Miss Edwards says that she found out that you had, in fact, rented the house, didn't tell her that you had rented the house, collected money from the new tenant, did not pay the mortgage on time, thereby ruining her credit. She is counterclaiming for ruining her credit and for the money that you got from renting her house. When did you move out of your house, Miss Edwards?
I moved out May the 29th.
When was the first mortgage payment due?
May the 1st.
Is that the mortgage payment she was supposed to make?
Correct.
But you were living in the house the entire month of May.
She gave me the okay to take that money to put a deposit down on the apartment while she put tenants into the house.
Is that right?
Yes,
So you were supposed to make May's payment?
Yes.
And it's due on May the 1st?
Correct.
Did you make May's payment?
Yes, I did.
When?
June 8th.
Well, that's late.
Yes.
That's unacceptable. You understand that?
No, I didn't tell her that the payment would be made on time. I was helping her.
No, Miss
I was
Smith,
helping her out
Miss
of a
Smith,
situation.
I read that in your answer to her counterclaim. And you said, well, I told her that I was going to make the payments, but I never said I would make the payments on time. It is presumed in the law that if you agree to take over the mortgage payment, it's understood. The same way it's understood if you say, I'll take over the mortgage payments, that you don't pay them in rupees or yen. You pay them in U.S. dollars. You don't have to write it out that you're going to pay them in U.S. dollars. You say, I'm going to take over the mortgage payments, and they will be paid. And they will be paid on time. You don't have to write on time.
But, Your Honor, we didn't come to that agreement until after she had moved out May 29th.
So you're saying you didn't come to the agreement to make the mortgage payment for May 1st.
Until it was already late.
Until it was, I see that. Is that
correct?
That is not correct, Your Honor. We made this agreement the beginning of May.
When the beginning of May?
Around May 1st, because there's a grace period for the mortgage up until the 15th. And Ms. Smith agreed to go ahead and use my mortgage money for that month to put a deposit down on the apartment where I was moving to.
That's not correct.
No, I believe you.
That's not
Just
correct.
a second. I believe you and I don't believe her. That she did not pay May 1st's mortgage payment on time, and you did not come to an agreement with her about this until after the mortgage payment for May was late. But then you had an agreement.
Yes.
So June 1st, you should have paid June's mortgage.
No, I paid June's mortgage on June 20th because I paid May's mortgage June 8th, so I paid June's mortgage June 20th.
And July?
And July, I paid July and August late.
When did you make the payments?
I made the payment both in September.
Well, that's unacceptable, Ms. Smith. That's unacceptable. So she has a legitimate gripe. If she had reasonable credit, and I don't know if she did, and she said that this destroyed her credit, that you made these mortgage payments late, she has legitimate beef. How much were the mortgage payments you made for her?
It was $1896.41 times 4.
Just a second. 18.
96 and 41 cents.
7584. Okay. Now, you put a tenant into the house.
Yes, I did.
When?
They moved in June, but their payment wasn't good until July.
Why?
Well, the house was vacant, and they were in a situation to where they didn't have anywhere to go. So I allowed them to move in June and pay me for July.
How much did they pay you?
$1,450.
How much in total did you receive from these tenants?
I received $2,900 from the tenants.
The tenants also gave her a $1,000 deposit.
Did you add that in?
Yeah. Oh, no. They gave a $1,000 deposit, which was refunded to them.
Okay. I am deducting the amount she was paid by the tenants. Do you understand?
Yes.
Show me your credit score before June and show it to me after.
I wasn't able to get the credit score after, but I do have it before June.
Well, you have to show me both. How do I know that you were damaged? That's your counterclaim, that your credit score was damaged because your mortgage was paid late. Isn't that your counterclaim?
Yes.
Well, how am I supposed to see that? Okay, so you have no counterclaim that you can prove. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if she paid your mortgage late and you could show damages as a result of paying the mortgage late, I would give you a certain amount to compensate you for that bad credit, but you can't prove that to me. Okay. Is there any reason why you don't owe her for these mortgage payments, $4,684? When did you move back into the house?
September the 15th.
She never moved back in.
September the 15th, the tenants moved out.
But she never moved in.
Who did?
Nobody. She left the house vacant until she just recently sold it a couple months ago. So
I moved back to the house.
Just a second. Hold it. Did you move back to the house?
Yes, I did.
In September?
September the 15th, when the tenants moved out.
And when did you sell the house?
September the 19th.
The house 4 days later?
Yes. I didn't move my stuff. My stuff was in storage. I was there at the house.
Don't play with me. Will you please?
I'm not.
So you're playing with me. How much did you sell the house for?
$394,000.
How much did you pay for it?
$125,000.
Why didn't you give her the mortgage payments that she laid out for you?
What mortgage payments?
The mortgage payments that she paid for you.
The tenants that were there gave her the money for her to pay the mortgage.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
Show me that.
They're her friends. They were friends of hers.
Just a second. Show me that.
They were friends
Bring
of hers.
a witness.
And they did not want to be involved.
Listen to me.
These are friends that she moved into the house.
Listen to me, my dear. She made mortgage payments totaling almost $8,000. According to her, she got rent for a 2-month period, which I have deducted $1,450. Were they month-to-month tenants, or did they sign a lease?
They signed a lease.
They signed a lease that I was not aware of.
What difference does it make? That was your agreement with her. She's not your mother. Why would she make your mortgage payment? Your agreement was she was going to rent the house. She was going to make the mortgage payment until such time I'm speaking thick. Until such time as the house could be sold, then she would recoup her money and everybody would be happy. I mean, what do you think? This is a windfall? You think you get somebody else to pay your mortgage, you make $200,000 on the house, and you don't have to pay it back? What are you, an idiot?
No, I'm not.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $46.84. That's all. Step out. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Business, friendship, and family really don't mix.
I guess the moral to all this is don't get business mixed with friendship.
At the end of the day, if somebody's trying to help you out as a friend, you would think that you would at least try to uphold your end of the bargain.
Be wiser and know what type of people you're dealing with.
I hate that it came to this.
We haven't talked since last year.
Sometimes people in your life are for a reason or a season, and I guess this was just a reason. I help her transition to wherever she needs to be, and I'll move forward.
Today's story with a similar plot. Enjoy watching. Are you Jim McKay? I was interrupting a routine Friday night argument with my lovely wife, and about whether it was better for a woman to do her own shopping or, in her case, whether the poor, depressed husband after a hard week at work should be deprived of the opportunity to have a cold drink straight from the refrigerator. I turned around with a big smile, thinking it was probably just another Saints fan wanting my autograph. This is for sleeping with my wife, you idiot. My nose exploded in pain under some idiot's fist, and I collapsed like the proverbial sack of potatoes, falling backward as the shock instantly transferred to my legs before I hit the of my head on something very, very hard. Shaking my head, I struggled to stand up, barely making out the big, dark-haired guy in my blurry vision as he quickly walked away from me. My brain went into panic mode as I blacked out. I think it's worth telling a little about myself. My name is Jim McKay. I am 39 years old, just over 6 feet tall and built like a brick house. I'm a handsome man with a figure like Brad Pitt and hair like an aged rock star. My hair is indeed quite long, although now streaked with gray, but my face is, well, let's just say battle-worn. I have a really powerful build, so it's not all a lie. My poor nose has now been broken for the 4th time, leaving it irregularly shaped and stretched across most of my face, with many scars above both my eyes. I played the great game of rugby league 384 times for my local team, St. Helens, a small town in the northwest of England, about 14 miles from Liverpool. I played for just over 12 years until I retired in 2004 at the age of 30 due to knee injuries. I also played 32 international matches for England or Great Britain, often against our arch-rivals Australia, whom I hate with a passion but at the same time respect very much. You could say that at one time I was a bit of a star. However, I had a problem with a short temper. My temperament became known early in my professional rugby career, and rival teams often used this against me, provoking me to react and causing the referee to send me to the penalty box for 10 minutes or worse, send me off for the rest of the game. Anyone who follows rugby league knows that playing short-handed, even for a short time, creates great difficulties for the rest of the team. The senior players kept trying to tell me what was going on and pointed out how if I didn't get a grip on myself, my career would be over before it really began. Eventually the club got tired of it and sent me to anger management courses. This helped a lot, but the problem remained, and I had to make a conscious effort to control myself despite provocation. Now I try to count to 10 when I feel angry. This works most of the time, but sometimes I only get to 2 or 3 before I explode. I was making good money for a rugby league player, nowhere near what those pampered footballers made, but enough to save for retirement. After retiring, I became the manager of a local hardware store owned by a big Saints fan, and eventually bought his business when he wanted to retire. We have since expanded the business to include a large organic garden center, which has become quite profitable. I also part-time coach the Saints Junior Academy team along with a few ex-players, and have a great time trying to get the boys up to the level required for the first team. In general, everything is going very well for us. When I say we, I mean me and my second wife, and she is a beautiful blonde, 10 years younger than me, the daughter of a wonderful lady named Mary, and a scoundrel named Ralph Harvey. You might think that I don't get along well with my father-in-law, and you'd be absolutely right. I can't stand this loud, drunk idiot. He's one of those ex-pros that all the players hate. He played about a dozen times for the first team back in the 80s, but to listen to him, it sounds like he was one of the greatest of all time. He always shows up at ex-player events at the club, invariably gets so drunk he can barely stand, and rants to every poor soul he can get his hands on about how great his team was and how no other player today could have played in his time. This is what you need when you're trying to have a quiet drink while meeting old friends. And, as I said, is my second wife. I met her when she had just returned from university after finishing her fine art course in 2006. I was at the rugby club's annual children's Christmas party for the local children's home, playing Santa Claus, when her mother brought her over and introduced us. I think I fell in love with her at that very moment. Anna knew almost everything about me. She was, and remains, a big rugby fan, so when she learned that Mary knew me well, she begged her mother to introduce us. We chatted like old friends for about the next half hour. Mary left us a couple of minutes after we met, and I found it much easier to talk to her than any other woman since my very high conflict divorce the year before. My first marriage ended extremely unpleasantly, to put it mildly. I married Diana in 1996 after we had been dating for just over 2 years. I was just over 21 and she was 24 and we were very much in love. At first she gradually became jealous of my growing fame and local popularity, hating every time a fan asked for my autograph when we were together, often acting extremely rudely when doing so. We learned early on that Diana was having trouble conceiving a child, which didn't bother me too much at the time, but she was very shaken by it, and it caused a lot of problems in our relationship. I realize now that not being able to conceive must have been a terrible blow to her sense of femininity, but at the time, I was definitely insensitive to her needs. Anyway, our marriage lasted several years and in 2004 she decided that she wanted something that would belong only to her, separate from me. She had always loved drawing and painting since childhood, so she enrolled in an art course at a local evening college. There she met that Cockney jerk, as he quickly became known in her family circle. His name was Paul Deff and he was her teacher. He was older than her, 42 to her 31, and was a typical artistic teacher of adult education. He could not draw himself, but felt qualified enough to teach others. He was a tall, skinny jerk, always dressed in someone else's old clothes, and had the stupidest haircut you've ever seen, almost completely bald on top with a ponytail that almost reached his waist in the back. Imagine what a complete idiot you looked like. Over the next few months he began taking her out for drinks after class, and it appears these quick drinks turned into a full-blown affair. She started dating him while I was away at games, and I imagine they had a lot of intimate. All this became clear during the divorce. He finally convinced her that she was too intellectual and smart to be with me, a Neanderthal, and she would be much better off with him. It all came to a head when she bluntly announced to me at home one Sunday evening that she had fallen in love with someone else, wanted a divorce, and wanted half of everything we had. She moved in with him that night. The next day she lifted the restraining order preventing me from contacting her or him, citing that I was a very dangerous person as evidenced by my profession, and she was afraid that I would attack her and her new partner. She knew me so well that if I got anywhere near that little, I would rip some of it off and hang it around her damn adulterous neck. However, being a local celebrity has its perks, and I was able to hire the best and most ruthless divorce lawyer in the area. They were able to use their admitted infidelity and my heartbroken innocence to our advantage. My shark lawyer took them to the cleaners, proving to the court that my wife abandoned her marriage to commit adultery with someone who, as a teacher, should be above reproach. The judge agreed with her and awarded me the house and most of our property, while Diana received alimony of £50 per week for 3 years or until she remarried, whichever came first. Mr. Deff may have considered himself superior in every way to a dumb, uneducated lout like me, but that didn't stop this money-hungry couple from living together for 3 years and getting married only a week after her damn alimony ran out. I may well give the impression that I'm bitter about all this, and I'm damn right. The experience with Diana and the jerk made me suspicious and distrustful of almost every woman I dated over the next few months. Sure, I dated a few times, but I could never allow myself to get emotionally involved with any of them. I only had intimate with 3 of them all once, and then I met Anna. We became close friends long before we became lovers, getting to know each other very well, much to the chagrin of her father. Coincidentally, given how Diana met the jerk, Anna introduced me to fine art and other so-called intellectual pursuits after I retired from rugby. We often went to London for weekends, always visiting world-famous art galleries and even going to the opera in Covent Garden a few times. I've always been a big rock fan, so to say that the whole thing was a culture shock for me would be an understatement. Anna took time to explain to me what actually made a painting or sculpture great, rather than just very good. She really loves her art, but unlike Paul, she knows she is not talented enough as an artist herself, and now works as an art historian and curator at the Tate Gallery in Liverpool. We were actually friends for 3 years before we became lovers, although I had known for months that I was deeply in love with her. However, I was still very nervous about making the commitment, clearly mentally scarred by my previous disastrous family experiences. Eventually, in 2010, Anna was clearly fed up with my lack of commitment to our relationship. She turned to face me with a stern expression on her beautiful face and said, "James McKay, I've been in love with you since I was 14, and I've been in love with you since I met you. So unless you ask me to marry you right now, I'm going to be on fire for you." What could a person say to that? We got married 6 months later in her favorite church, surrounded by all our friends, family, and lots of ex-rugby players. Very slowly I began to come to my senses. My head gradually cleared, my eyes tried to focus, and eventually I was able to see a small crowd gathered around me. With difficulty I tried to get to my feet, but I felt a firm hand on my chest pushing me back to the ground. "I'm a nurse. Please don't try to get up, sir. You've had a bad blow to the head," she said. Throwing my head back on the paper towels placed under my bleeding skull, I gradually focused on the dark brown features of my assistant. "My name is Rose and I am the head nurse at St. Luke's Theatre. You have a serious injury and it appears your nose is broken, so please do not move until the ambulance arrives." Her voice had a distinct South African accent, and I could see that she was a big girl, as they say. Her breasts were perhaps the largest I had ever seen from below, stretching her dark blue scrubs to the limit. Although she was a caring professional, there didn't seem to be much sympathy in her voice as she continued. "Obviously, this isn't the first time your nose has been broken, by the looks of it. But a blow to the back of the head can be a big problem, so please just lie there until the paramedics arrive." Now that my eyes were focusing better, I looked around at the rapidly growing crowd of onlookers, slowly noticing their facial expressions. There was no concern, sympathy, or any of the other emotions one would normally show towards someone who might be seriously injured. Instead, there was judgment from some and outright amusement from most. Completely ignoring Sister Rose's advice, I tried to stand up, only to feel dizzy again and had to sit down with my back against the concrete pillar that I had apparently hit my head on when I fell. "Please, Mr. McKay, don't move. Your head could have been seriously injured," Rose pleaded. Feeling something was wrong with the good sister, I asked her quietly, "Where's my wife?" "Where is Anne?" "You mean the blonde?" After getting knocked down by another person, she loaded all her shopping into the car and sped out of here like a bat out of hell. "What? Why?" Rose gave me a stern, disapproving look and, looking around at the other onlookers, replied, "Actually, yes." She said a lot and screamed even more. Completely stunned, I asked, "She was screaming? What? Why didn't she stay to help me?" "She's called you a lot of wrong names, Mr. McKay, most of which I would never use. But she doesn't seem to approve of the idea of you sleeping with someone else's wife. And if I may say so, Mr. McKay, I totally agree with her. Unfaithful husbands deserve to have their noses broken. But I never cheated on her." I muttered, trying to understand what was going on. "Excuse me, what did you say, Mr. McKay?" the kind sister asked, leaning towards me to hear me better. "I said I never cheated on her. I would never do that. She knows I couldn't. Mr. McKay, I saw and heard everything, and I certainly don't think another gentleman would hit you like that without a good reason," objected the reproachful Sister Rose. I became quite annoyed at what seemed to be a complete misunderstanding. "I have no idea who he is, let alone who his wife is, and I'm telling you I've never slept with another man's wife." I almost shouted with indignation. "Mr. McKay, there is absolutely no need to swear like that. Please refrain from using such language," Rose said, clearly reprimanding me. "Sorry, sister. I just can't figure out what just happened here," I replied, being duly reprimanded by my savior. While most of the rapidly growing crowd laughed at my discomfort as the first witnesses informed the new arrivals about what was happening, Rose added, "I don't think I'm the one you need to convince, Mr. McKay, but I don't think you'll be sleeping with your own wife anytime soon either." And that's how I ended up in the emergency department of St. Luke's General Hospital at 11:45 p.m. on a Friday night in June. Sister Rose very kindly told the arriving paramedics what had happened as they loaded me into the ambulance. Of course, one of the paramedics turned out to be a mock Australian. Lance spent the entire trip mocking the big international rugby league player who was knocked out with one blow, telling me it was long overdue for what I had done to Aussie heroes in the past. The idiot even took a photo of my bloody face on his mobile phone to send to his friends back home in Australia. His colleague was no better. She was a sweet young lady who clearly did not approve of cheating husbands, making it obvious that she shared Sister Rose's opinion. She must have gotten her turn to insert the Roman for that medic's use as part of the procedure, and clearly took advantage of it. What happened to all the caring professionals our health service is supposed to have? I'm sure she used a dull needle because it hurt like hell when she administered that stuff. These two friendly medics wheeled me straight to the emergency room on a gurney, leaving me at the mercy of the emergency room staff. Of course, they had to tell everyone who would listen who I was and what had happened to me, so again I was faced with complete indifference to my well-being from all the nurses there. Eventually, the doctor on duty, a woman, examined the back of my head with the care I expected from a busy, tired professional. She took one look and sent me for an X-ray. Luckily, the orderly in charge of the wheelchair that took me to the X-ray room was a big Saints fan. He took great pleasure in telling me how he was at Wembley when I scored the winning goal against Wigan in the 1998 Cup final. This was not surprising, as almost everyone I've ever spoken to from St. Helens claimed to have been there on that great day. By the way, that day was the greatest of my rugby career. Hearing 35,000 Saints fans sing Martha and the Vandellas' Jimmy Mack as I walked back from scoring a last-minute goal to win the cup against our greatest rivals, it just doesn't get any better than that. Bob, the orderly, kindly asked if there was anyone he could report my location and injuries to, so I gave him Anna's cell number and asked him to call her, promising to do so. He left me at the X-ray station. Unfortunately, Bob was clearly a gossip. He simply had to tell the radiologists on duty what he had heard about me. Apparently, I had been beaten up by a jealous husband for sleeping with his wife. So again, I was conscientiously ignored by everyone until there was no one else left to X-ray. Then I had to wait for busy Bob to come back and take me back to see the doctor. He eventually came back for me, took me back to the emergency room, and dropped me off in the waiting room again. All the way back he insisted on talking about rugby, barely letting me get a word in until his voice echoed in my throbbing head. As he was leaving, he suddenly remembered what I had asked him to do and said, loud enough for everyone in the waiting room to hear, "By the way, Jim, I called your wife as you asked." She said, and I quote, "Let that cheetah rot in hell for all I care." Here I am, sitting in the middle of a very busy, crowded emergency room, waiting for the doctor on duty to examine me, hopefully stitch up my wounds and send me home. By this time I was fully conscious but still had no idea who hit me or why he thought I was sleeping with his wife. Looking around, I could see amusement, contempt, and outright disdain on the faces of most of the patients and staff who waited with me. I could hear whispers accusing me of being a cheating idiot who clearly couldn't keep his gun in his pants. "To be honest, I haven't slept with anyone's wife but my own," I said, addressing no one in particular but loud enough for everyone to hear. "I have no idea who this guy is or who his wife is. I swear on my mother's life I don't." "Yes, sure," came the answer from some unidentified woman. "I did not sleep with anyone else," I shouted. At the sound of my raised voice, the guard on duty, a big guy who was obviously a frustrated cop and needed a uniform to prove his manhood, hurried towards me. Having glanced at my expression, he apparently decided it was better to refrain from action and stopped in place. "Jim, please don't make trouble," he pleaded. "I don't want to call the police." "No problem, just leave me alone," I barked. Anyone who has ever sought help in a busy emergency department on a Friday night will understand how long the wait can be, served by overworked and stressed staff who are unhappy to be on duty, and deal with all the drunks and other antisocial elements that show up at this time of the week. So it's no surprise that I had to wait forever to be examined. I was eventually called back to the same doctor who first examined me. She took a close look at the X-rays of my battered skull while I sat there. "There's no sign of a fracture, Mr. McKay, but I'd like you to stay the night so we can observe you and see if there are any problems later. 24 hours should be plenty." "I'm fine now, Doc, just a bit of a headache." "It's no worse than a lot of times on the rugby field," I replied, perhaps a little harshly. "Who's the doctor here, Mr. McKay? How would you like it if I started telling you how to play this stupid game?" She shot back. "You'd be in good company, document. Every week, thousands tell me what I'm doing wrong," I replied, trying to soften the situation. "I'm sure I'll be fine and I'd really like to go home." "If that's the case, maybe if you insist, sir. I cannot physically stop you from leaving here, but I must insist that you sign a document stating that you are leaving the hospital against all my recommendations. Obviously you know much more about the possible consequences of a serious blow to the head than a simple, experienced emergency doctor who studied at the university for 6 years and has been working in this department for the last 5 years. Turning and picking up a medical razor, she continued in her moralizing tone, "You are of course a highly skilled amateur who apparently knows much better how fit your skull is, and how little harm a gentle collision between a human skull and a concrete pillar can cause." Sensing that her patience might be wearing thin, I decided it would be best to keep my mouth shut, while she shaved an unreasonably large patch of hair from the back of my head to stitch me up. "Here are 7 stitches, Mr. McKay. I'm sure you know the procedure. They should dissolve in about a week, and will leave you with another good scar to add to your collection. Please see your doctor next week to make sure there's no infection in the wound, and I must emphasize how important this is, despite your excellent knowledge of these matters. If you experience any dizziness or changes in vision, return here immediately." Turning away from me and putting away the needle and equipment, she continued, "I also suggest that you avoid encounters with jealous husbands in the future, Mr. McKay." "Damn it, Doc. I haven't slept with anyone's wife." "It's all a big misunderstanding," I exclaimed. "Why does everyone think I'm some kind of cheating idiot?" "As they say, Mr. McKay, if the hat fits," she replied coolly. "Now, if you insist on leaving, do so. We are extremely busy here, as you can see." By then it was 1:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning, a great time to try to get a taxi home. I tried calling Anna on her mobile and also on her home phone. Since my parents were on vacation, a taxi was my only option. Finally, at about 2:45 a.m., my ride home arrived. The driver looked at my bloody clothes and immediately declared, "I won't take a drunk from the hospital. Please call another taxi, mister." Jumping into the back seat before he could move, I barked at him, "I'm not drunk. Now take me home before I get really angry." "Okay, mister. Just please don't bleed in my car. I work all night and I don't think my other passengers would like it if their clothes got dirty," he replied. "No problem, buddy," I said. Half an hour later we arrived at my house. After I got out of the taxi and he drove away, I noticed for the first time that my car was parked in the driveway, and Anna's SUV was missing. This meant that she had at least returned home and put away her shopping. As I walked around my locked car, I slowly realized that I was locked out of not only my house but also my car, and I had no keys to get in. Of course, I did what any calm, rational, clear-thinking man with a broken nose and 7 stitches in the back of his head would do under the circumstances. I broke the door. Before I even made it to the bedroom, the powerful painkillers they gave me immediately knocked me out, and I fell asleep on the couch. However, I remember thinking at that moment that someone would pay for all this before I fell asleep. I woke up a little after 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, feeling like absolute crap. My head hurt, my nose seemed the size of a small mountain, and the lump on the back of my head was extremely painful. I dragged myself to the bathroom and completed my morning routine. Surprisingly, I had the usual morning excitement, but getting help while sitting like a woman solved that little problem. Then I took a shower, trying not to get my hair wet as the sympathetic doctor had told me the day before. I didn't shave, then looked in the mirror to comb my hair. Damn, what a view. My nose was covered with a bandage that stretched across both cheeks and my eyes were as black as a panda. After getting dressed, I threw the bloody t-shirt I'd worn the night before in the trash, threw my jeans in the laundry basket, and made myself a cup of coffee. I thought I knew exactly where Anna might have gone, so the first thing I decided to do was fix the front door. It had been the object of all my frustrations and anger earlier, and didn't look its best, hanging on its hinges with a broken lock and door frame. I called Alan, my assistant manager at work and probably my best friend in the world, and asked him to bring a new door frame and lock as soon as possible. I refused to explain when he asked why I needed a new door so urgently, and told him to keep it to himself. A couple of hours later we had the new door installed, and Alan left with strict instructions not to tell anyone anything. He tried a couple of times to find out why I was walking like a bear with a sore, why my face and head were in such a state, and what happened to the door. The first time he asked, I muttered that it was none of his business. When he asked again a little later, he received a rude answer from me, and was not so politely informed not to pry. Resisting the temptation to mention that he would probably be better off not prying, he helped me install the new door before returning to work, taking away all the remnants of my unwarranted attack on the door. By this time it was after 3 p.m. and I really needed to contact Anna and explain that it had all been a misunderstanding. I wanted to convince her to come home to care for her unjustly injured husband. I was right, she had gone to her parents' house. Her SUV was in their driveway when I pulled up, so I parked behind it to prevent her from driving away again. I hurried up the path, rang the doorbell, and waited to see who would answer. A few seconds later, Mary, my beautiful mother-in-law, opened the door just a crack, having first installed a security chain, and looked out through the narrow opening. She shuddered when she saw my condition, and the expression of sympathy on her face quickly changed to one of stern disapproval. "James, how could you?" she asked, still not letting me into the house. "How could you treat Anna this way? I thought you were better than this." Mary always used my full name when I seriously messed up, so I kept a calm and quiet tone as I responded. "Mary, I never cheated on Anna despite what she's going through, and I would never cheat on her. Honestly, please let me in so I can talk to her and explain everything." "No, James. She doesn't want to talk to you right now. She's furious. She thought you were the love of her life, and she's so disappointed in you. I know it looks bad, Mary, but I really don't know who this guy is or who his wife is. Let me explain this to Anna. Please let me try to convince her to at least listen. James, I definitely want to believe you. I love you like my own son, and it would break my heart if all of this turned out to be true. But..." She closed the door again in my face and walked deeper into the house. I hoped it was to persuade Anna to let me talk to her. A couple of minutes later, the door was chained open again, and there was the face of my irate father-in-law. "I always knew you were a scoundrel, you arrogant jerk. I should never have let my daughter marry you," he blurted out, protected by the door. "Count yourself lucky that I'm not 20 years younger, otherwise, I would give you the rebuff you deserve, you traitor." This was too much. I wasn't going to put up with such disgusting behavior from him. My anger quickly grew until I shouted back, "You're disgusting. Firstly, never in your wildest fantasies could you fight me as you so colorfully expressed it. And secondly, I never cheated. This definitely didn't go as planned." I thought as the door slammed in my face. I saw Mary looking at me from the living room window, so I walked over and beckoned her to open it. She did as I asked, opening the window slightly, just enough so that I could hear her. "Please go away, Jim. Let me work on this. There's no chance she'll want to talk to you while you and her dad are here together." "Okay, Mary. I'll go away for a while. I still don't trust myself around this, but please tell her what I said. I'll call her in a short time and try to talk to her if that's okay. I'll try to convince her to talk to you, Jim, although I can't promise anything. Her father is insisting that she divorce you and get rid of you for good, but leave it to me. You know how he is, he'll calm down in a couple of days. I didn't expect anything less from him, Mary. Why did such a beautiful lady like you ever marry such a disgusting idiot? You could have chosen anyone better than him." I said this quietly, having calmed my anger a little thanks to my beautiful mother-in-law. "You know how it is, Jim. You went through it with Diana. Sometimes you just can't choose who you fall in love with," she replied softly, a tear rolling down her cheek. "Now please go away and let me try to calm things down. Everyone's here. Call me in a couple of hours and I'll tell you what's going on." I softly kissed her teary cheek, whispering, "Thank you for everything, Mary. I'll talk to you later." I returned home and lounged around the house for a couple of hours before calling Anna on my cell phone around 8 p.m. "Jim. Sorry, darling. It's Mary, not Anna. She's gone to spend a couple of days with our George in Leeds and won't be back until Monday. Just let her cool off, okay? I'm sure she'll talk to you when she gets back. George is Anna's younger brother. He plays for Leeds Rugby Club and luckily is one of my best friends, so I knew he wouldn't turn her against me like her dad did." "Okay, Mary," I replied calmly, holding back my irritation out of a desire to bring my wife home where she belongs. "When you talk to her, please tell her that this is all a big misunderstanding and that I love her more than anything. I know you love her, Jim. I'm sure she'll understand that you would never cheat on her, despite what Ralph tries to tell her. Our George and his wife will set her right. I'll ask her to call you when she comes back."